Hey, everybody. Before we get started, let's talk about our sponsor today, GeekFuel.com. Geek Fuel is a great subscription box service that ships out a mystery box each month that has at least $50 worth of value for just $15 plus shipping and handling. But if you act right now, you can save $3 off any plan. That means you can get your Geek Fuel boxes for as little as $13.90 per month. You'll also get an additional gift in your first Geek Fuel box if you go to geekfuel.com/wordballoon. This is a great end-of-the-year deal that you should definitely take advantage of. Go to geekfuel.com/wordballoon. And now, on with the show. Welcome back to Word Balloon, the comic book conversation show. John Sutras here. I'm closing out the year with a good friend and one of the guys that I think is one of the exceptional writers of 2016, and that's Tom King. Can't deny it when you think about some of the things that Tom came out with. Hell, you can go back to 2015 with Tom's run on Omega Men, but for me, it's the Sheriff of Babylon, of course, the Vision, the 12 issues of the Vision that really made a huge impact on the comic biz, and his run on Batman. I mean, that's a thankless job to follow Scott Snyder on Batman, and Tom has managed to do it in the 13 issues we've read so far. And he gives us a preview of what's coming up. I mean, Batman created his own Suicide Squad. He had the threat of Gotham and is still dealing with the fallout of that with poor Gotham Girl. And also a new wrinkle in the Batman-Catwoman relationship. Catwoman claiming to have killed over 200 people. That's why she was moved to Arkham. Did she? I don't know. It seems there's a deeper story there than just that initial announcement. Batman certainly thinks so. So that's going to be something we look forward to in 2017 developing with the issues to come. And, of course, Bane is now addicted again to Venom and seeking vengeance from being disgraced by Batman and his Suicide Squad in the I Am Suicide storyline. We talk about all that and more with Tom. We reflect on the first season of Sheriff of Babylon and also the Vision 12 issues. And, Tom and I can't help it. We're old-time movie and TV buffs, and we get into some conversations about that dotted throughout the discussion of the comics as well. But that's why I enjoy having Tom King on, and I'm glad to welcome him back on today's Word Balloon. It's all brought to you by the League of Word Balloon listeners. Thank you, League, for your support. 2016 has been another big year for me in terms of gathering those of you who are willing to subscribe to Word Balloon. And I really do appreciate the subscriptions because it helps keep the show going and keep me going to conventions and buying new equipment and trying to make Word Balloon as pleasant of an experience as possible with new guests, new content, and the best sounding quality I can give you. So if you have any interest in subscribing to Word Balloon and can spare, $1 a month, the price of one comic book, anything like that, if you think the content you hear on Word Balloon is worth supporting, go to patreon.com/wordballoon or go to the front page of wordballoon.com. You'll see the Patreon ad, and that will take you directly to our Patreon page, meaning mine and the League. And thank you very much for your support. I truly do appreciate it. So thank you, League of Word Balloon listeners. Without further ado, let us pick up our conversation with Tom King now on Word Balloon. Tom King, welcome back to Word Balloon. And, man, for as rough of a year as 2016 has been for so many people and so many terrible, deaths that we had. I mean, literally, we're recording the day that Carrie Fisher passed away. Thankfully, yeah, but you're the yin to that yang where
No, I have no.
No. I'm not saying at the sacrifice of these people, but it's nice that some people have had a good 2016, and you're certainly one of them. So congratulations.
Yeah, I don't know. I had my bumps, so it's hard to be optimistic. Yeah, it's tough on a day that Carrie Fisher died. Man, that is just a blow. That is a blow to. It's a blow to two communities, which I know we both belong to, which is like the nerd community. To lose Leonard Nimoy and Carrie Fisher in 1 year is crazy.
You're right. I didn't even put it in that perspective, but you're 100% right. Go on.
I mean, if you had to make it like a top 10 people who are alive that mean more to nerds than anyone else, both of those people would be on it. So it's like at least 20% of the top. And I don't even know if you could come up with 10 names, Be like Shatner and Patrick Stewart and Harrison Ford. And so it's a blow to Hamill. And and then it's a blow on because we're old movie buffs, and she's part of that world too. I mean,
Absolutely.
she's like Hollywood royalty, and
Eddie Fisher, her father, and of course Debbie Reynolds, her mom. Absolutely.
So it's like, and I'll even add another community of people who are a little mentally crazy, which I consider myself part of, and she's just a fucking wonderful spokesman for those. I swear so much. I'm sorry. She's a wonderful spokesman for that community, and I don't know. This blow hit me really hard when she.
I think you're right. Yeah, man. No, you're hitting all the bases, and I think you're 100% right. And by the way, as I always let you know, you can swear. It's cool. It's fine. But no, I think you're 100% right.
I love fucking swearing, but then it occurs to me that like sometimes I'm in the car, I'm bored, my kids are like screaming in the backseat, and I put a podcast on. So then I feel bad for people who might do that with my name.
I do understand, and I do have listeners who are like, "Hey, I'm trying to listen with kids," but coming from radio where you can't swear, I'm always like, let people talk the way they talk. It's okay, and I do understand with kids, but I also like to point out, as much as I love children, this isn't a show for kids. This is where everyone can I can relax, I can be me, I'll reveal as much as I want to about myself and what I do, and it might be a little too esoteric for kids. And I know too, they're playing their games and stuff like that, and Dad just wants something to listen to so he doesn't have to hear the Johnny Jump Up song 25 times or what. So,
My oldest, who's, oh my God, he just turned 8, which is insane, was literally weaned on John Suntress because it was my go-to. Because I took care of my kid full time. I was a Mr. Mom when he was born, and so I gave him a bottle a lot when my wife was at work. And if I needed to sit, it was just iPhones had just come out, and if I was just like sitting down and had to like sit there for like 20 minutes with a bottle, Word Balloon was my go-to podcast. To just sit there, it was like the perfect relaxing kind of sitting there with my kid. So when my oldest has problems 30 years from now, he's going to tell a psychologist, like, I don't know, I just hear this voice inside my head. He's always asking me, what's coming out next? What's coming out next? I don't know.
Well, I'm sorry if I haunt your child's future dreams.
You should be sorry.
I absolutely am. What? Tell me about the bad things that happened to you in 2016, or what in terms of or the nervous part of the year.
I had before. I haven't talked about this yet, but what's so like? Well, I was raised a bit by my grandmother because my father left when I was really young, and my mom was an entertainment attorney, so she was almost never home. So my grandmother sort of raised me, and she died this year at 92. Oh, and it was just like it was a big blow halfway through the year, and it was right before Batman 1 came out, and I just got psychologically crushed by the whole thing. I had a panic attack, ended up in the hospital doing that whole scenario. And so it was just a lot to come back from. And I mean, a lot of people have harder times than me, Lord knows, but I don't know why, but in the middle of 2016, I just kind of melted down a little bit and had to put myself back together.
Wow.
Just a matter of all this, there was a lot of stress. I was writing so much. I was finishing Vision, Sheriff, and Omega Man while starting Batman, and I didn't miss one deadline. Everything came out on time, and I tried to put that anxiety sort of back into the work. But yeah, that's just a small blow compared to the shit storm that 2016 has become.
Well, but I know a lot of people are on edge right now. So, like, what kind of coping skill did you apply to, really like focus on the work and keep the demons down?
Focus on the work. I mean, I did some obvious stuff. I got a dog that really helped. That seems silly, but a dog helped.
What are you talking about? That's Carrie Fisher, man. Which I think that's wonderful. And no, I know the emotional lift that owning and caring for a dog can bring and stuff like that. Definitely.
Yeah, and I got some help. I went on pills for a while, and I got off the pills, and I saw a professional. I would normally never talk about this shit, but like Carrie Fisher died today, and I don't know, it just gives you have to talk about it, right? You're kind of betraying her.
No, but I think, but that's great, man, and truly, you're another successful guy that can say, hey, it doesn't have to immobilize you. You can continue to move forward and accomplish things. And again, certainly she did as well.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And sometimes you have to get help, and sometimes that's mental help.
Yes.
And I say this as, I say this as, I went to war twice, so I have that going for me. And, I don't know. I mean, back to your question of how to get better through it, I think is the place to focus on. Comics helped, man. Comics always help. Comic books are a goddamn healing factor in my life since the time I was 6 years old. Just going back and getting lifted by comics and getting lifted by this community, both the creators and the fans. And like literally my best friends in the world right now are people I met through message boards reading comics, and they helped me out. And of course it's lucky that I'm married to the nicest lady of the world, and I have 3 darling children. So all that stuff sort of lifted me back up. And goddamn, the love people gave me for Vision, especially, and also for Sheriff and Omega Man, and the love people pay with their wallets for Batman, that helped.
Well, good. I'm glad to hear that, because no lie, I mean, that's the great thing. I want to talk about Batman one thing, but I want to hit Vision first, and very briefly on Batman. Way to go, because following Scott's run. You're showing once again that there are more different things to say about Batman when a reader could go, God, what is he going to bring that's new? Or what, what point of view? Well, truly, man, because I can point to, and I won't name names, but there have been some really good writers and artists who have worked on Batman in the last 10 years that have written very fine Batman stories, but they weren't original enough or provocative enough, other than being, this is great. I like seeing the triple somersault. I've seen a lot of people do it, and this person is very adept at doing it well. But it's not something I haven't already seen. And I think that your Batman run is showing that, and the conversations, the inner monologues are bringing a new dimension to Batman after a very successful run by Scott, and he continues it through All-Star Batman. But that's what I mean. There's you're bringing something different, and it's really good. So nice going on Batman. And we'll get into the specifics of Batman, but Vision was great, man. I mean, Vision really. I think that's the best 12 issues of Vision I think that have ever been created. I think
sweet.
Yeah, man. And I think the 3,
take that, Steve Englehart somewhere. It's here going down his little his genius face.
Yeah, who wrote? Was it Roy Thomas that wrote the original story? I think it was Roy.
Roy Thomas wrote the original. Jeff Johns had a run on Vision.
Yes, he did.
Sam Humphries had a run on Vision. I read all the Vision.
And there you go, man. I mean, great writers, and truly.
Fred Van Lente had a good Vision. If you want his work, that's good too.
Fred Van Lente, did you say?
Yeah, he had did some Vision work too.
There you go. But no, from the start, and I kept calling this for people who didn't know. I'm like, this is like a Ray Bradbury or Outer Limits starring the Vision. That's what it felt like to me. And I've said this to you before in the 2 other I think interviews where we've talked about Vision. But great, satisfying ending. I mean, that's the thing, man. You had a night gymnast triple somersault landing on point finish to it as well. You're just like Eddie the Eagle, Tom.
That's me. I'm Eddie the Eagle.
I've been watching that on HBO this month.
Just slightly bigger glasses, just slightly.
Exactly. Your chin doesn't jut out just as much as his does, or your underbite or whatever.
There's surgery, but as possible is. That's very kind of you to say. I love hearing this. Yeah, Vision is the thing I did that is most perfect. I don't know. People love it in a way I would never think anyone would love something I wrote. I mean, it's like on all the best lists and all that stuff, and I'm insanely proud of it. It was. I don't know. It came through, and I mean, and the reason it's good. I'm proud of my work on it, but the team functioned beautifully. From Gabriel Walta, who drew the shit out of it and can make you cry with lines, which I don't know how he does that. And Jordi Belair colored it in this amazing way, and Clayton Klaus lettered it brilliantly. The lettering in that book is really hard to do. The captions have to be in the exact right spot, and he nailed it every time. And Will Moss is the genius editor of Marvel Comics, who edits all their great. If you love a Marvel book, look at Edited By, and Will Moss's name will be there. And he will one day rule comics. So suck up to that guy if you see him at a con.
The family, I mean, really, came alive as they should. I mean, but really, you had us crying about robots, man, and I think that's pretty amazing. And the way it ended in particular as well with Virginia's choices at the end. I mean, in case anyone hasn't read this and is probably reading all the great responses and best of lists of 2016, and the Vision is certainly up there for everybody. But I think that's great, and also a great launching pad for Viv and the next chapter in her life now as part of the Champions with Wade.
I know. I was looking at some sales. Not that I would ever look at sales figures because I only write for the art, but I was looking at some sales figures for a month ago, and I was like, "Oh man, Batman got beat by some book." And I was like, "What is this crappy book? Champions with Viv? I feel like that's a double victory."
Yeah, I think you're right.
Because it launched like huge. So I was super excited to see her. Yeah. Mark Waid is insanely nice and crazy cool, and knows every single story about every superhero and every person who's worked on the superheroes. I had dinner with him in Richmond, and it was just like comic book heaven. And Mark reached out to me before Vision had ended and asked permission. He's like, "Hey, I have this book coming out. Would you mind if I use this Viv? She sort of works perfectly," which is such a polite thing to do, like that you think would be the opposite. And I said, "Yes, hell yes, of course." And I love his take on the character, and I love that she's sort of advancing forward into the Marvel universe. I think I've created like 4 or 5 characters since I started in comics, and she's definitely the most successful of them. So I hope she goes forth and conquers the world. I'm sure eventually they'll merge her with Gwen Stacy, and she'll be Gwen Viv, and then she'll take off. And Deadpool as well. She'll be Gwen Viv Pool. The Gwen Viv Pool #1.
Gwen Viv. That's like Shemp Joe.
Shemp Joe.
The odd 7 stooge that nobody talks about. Oh man. Gwen.
By the way, I am writing a Gwen Viv Pool pitch as we speak. I'm no longer listening.
I think you're gonna have. I think they'll take it, frankly.
Dear Mr. Alonso.
Did Mark say what he liked about Viv and why he wanted to use her? Did you get into deep character talk at all, or was it just, "Hey, I want to use this"? And of course, you're like, "Well, it's Mark Waid, go."
Both things are true. He went. Mark is. Vision's like one of those books that everybody. That's the first thing anyone says to me if you're a professional. Is they think, "Oh, you wrote Vision." I'd be like, I write Batman. That's the one everyone reads. Like, "No, Vision. Let's talk about it." So he was a big fan of just Vision, the series. He did an Avengers issue, a very nice Avengers issue where he used the sort of weird voice we used in Vision as a dedication. So he's been a huge supporter of that book, thankfully. And he liked the idea that sort of the team needed. Someone who wasn't a superhero, but someone who could sort of be a traveling Google. And he wanted a sort of a dramatic stand-in for, I don't know if this is the way he put it. Maybe he wouldn't put it this way, but in modern superhero comics, a dramatic problem is that everyone has a computer in their pocket, right? So like if Batman has to solve a mystery, I hear a song in an elevator. What song is it? He just take his phone and solve the problem. But that's not very dramatic if Batman's constantly looking at a phone. So I think having a character who represents that and can be that link on a team helps create dramatic moments out of the internet, out of sort of things. I think
interesting.
I think that'll help. That. And also I think he likes that. I mean, the characters in his, I halfway through Vision, Tom Brevoort, who's, this is behind the scenes shit, but I like this shit, so you get to hear.
I like this stuff, so go
on. So Tom Brevoort's an old-time Marvel, I mean, he's, a young and strapping man, but he's an old-time Marvel editor, who's been around for 27 years or something as the Avengers editor. And I think it's not, the best part about working on Vision is everyone ignores you, so you can kind of do your own thing.
Sure.
Because it sells well enough, they're not going to cancel it, but doesn't sell well enough they have to worry about the numbers going down. And eventually he kind of looked over and said, "What the hell are you doing to my Avenger with this book?" And he called me and he's like, "We need a conference call. I need to know what the hell's going on, because you have every single line in your book is that Vision's going to kill the Marvel Universe in issue 12. You need permission to do that." I was like, "I need permission to kill the Marvel Universe? Did Fred Hembeck ask for permission?"
Exactly. You're killing me.
And although I just read that Marvel book, well, that's a separate thing. We'll talk about it.
All right.
That was supposed to be Jim Shooter Kills the Marvel Universe. That was the original title. That's hilarious. Anyways,
I know that, and then it became Hembeck instead. Like Hembeck took over.
Yeah, like he didn't want to offend the boss, kind of, so he put himself in. I love that.
That's hilarious.
So
I see. Fred switched the title himself.
Yes.
So there was going to be even more of a parody that Jim himself is killing the Marvel Universe.
That's right, yeah.
But it was too much. It might be perceived as kind of an insult to Jim. I get it.
Yeah, according to that, I think Sean Howe Marvel book, which I love. I just read it for the second time. And I wish someone would do a DC book like that. I know we have some good early DC books, but that book is just all gossip for 75 years. And now that I know half of the people involved, it's delightful.
Well, and it was unauthorized too, the Sean Howe book.
Yeah,
we got to get somebody, because I know people who know where the bodies are buried, and I don't think it's hard to figure out who those people are, but I don't know how willing they are to divulge on the record.
I like that it's unauthorized, because when it gets it sort of peters out around 2003 or 4 when he can't interview anybody because those people still work for the company and won't betray the company, right? But it's good because I don't want that gossip from those periods, because I know those people too well to learn the gossip. I like hearing oh my God, wow, Len Wein was amazing in 1972. I can't believe he got in that fight. Anyways, that's beside the topic.
No, that's cool.
I'm going to wander from topic to topic.
That's what we do. This is fine. I think people enjoy these conversations because you and I wander. I got no problem with that.
Good, we can go on this.
But so back to Vision and everything. Yeah. So what was the?
So he called me on the phone. He's and Will, my editor, got on the phone and he said, "Tom," and he went off on this big lecture about what continuity means and what a shared universe is. And it was you want to interrupt him, you want to.
But Tom,
I think what he thought was he's like, this is some asshole CIA agent who's never read a comic book in his life and thinks he can just come in and destroy the whole universe. I was like, I work for DC Comics. They're much more crazy than you. And I was sort of listening to this lecture, and a very kind lecture, and full of funny references to comic book people.
Sure, that's cool.
And
I love Tom. I love talking to Tom. Go on.
Oh, he told I can't tell a story, but it was a great John Byrne joke that I still laugh at and pretend is mine. We are old men making John Byrne jokes. That's all right. That's all right. I'm going to tangent again. If you do get that Marvel book, I just listened to it on tape. Just listen to it for how many times the guy pronounces the word Sienkiewicz wrong. It's the best.
Oh, that's awesome. Who narrates Sean's book? Do you know?
I don't know. I don't know
in person.
No, it's not like an actor that I would have known. But
hello, I'm Michael York. Here's the untold history of Marvel Comics.
It's Dan DiDio.
All right, now here's the thing. Bill Sinkwinitz. Is that how I say it?
Sinkwinowicz. It's not even consistent. Every time it's different. I was like, this guy's punking me with this.
That is awesome. I should do an unauthorized reading of Sean's book as Dan DiDio. I think that's good. All right. And then in 81, Tom DeFalco was really mad. And this is what happened. It was great. I liked
it. Dan called me 2 days ago, and I swear to God, John, I thought it was you. I thought it was like that movie cliche when people call you and pretend it's not the person, but it actually happened to me. I was like, you're fucking with me.
All right, listen. All right, 6:15. I just saw the script. I'm not happy. 8:15. What? 9:15. Where are we at even? I don't even know the numbers.
Yeah, that's right. I just got off the phone with Scott. He hung up the rings. He goes, "Come, this is Dan DiDio." I was like, "Oh, John's fucking punking me because we're going on Orville." And I was like, "No, it's not." That's literally said, "No, it's not." Like I'm 4 years old. And I was like, "Oh my God, what if it is?" Quick, act professional. I was like,
Yeah.
Batman, Superman are cool. Yeah, nailed it.
Hilarious.
So
then
I wait to be killed.
Then you calmed Brevoort down and said, obviously,
Yeah, so then
Isn't that great though? That like he thought, hey, he's really going to try and kill the Avengers. It's like, what are you, nuts? Of course not. I mean, it's like Hail Hydra. What, Cap is evil? Oh my God! Hey, let him tell his story. Relax. Everything's fine.
I feel like I'm spoiling it that I don't actually kill the Avengers in the end. No, the Avengers actually do survive the whole thing. So then I told him, and then I was like, so at the end, what you're left with, the status quo, is you have Vision as a single father raising Viv, and I give you teenage Vision Viv as like sort of a departing gift. And he's like, oh, okay. And that was the end of the conversation. I told him, I was like, no, we're not doing that. And,
well, that's the thing. This is a great legacy character that doesn't force the senior character off the page. And a lot of people are able to accomplish that as well, but this is in a very different way where we literally have a child of the Vision now as a new character and as a legacy character. Without immediately saying, okay, she's going to be on stage. And honestly, I don't know if any of the other Avenger writers are using Vision in one of their books. I don't know.
Mark using him in the regular books. Mark Waid.
Oh, there you go.
You can't have the Avengers without Vision. There's except they had it for.
Yeah, you can.
10 years. He was killed. It took me a while to realize that Finch killed. I work with Finch on Batman. It took me a while to realize that it was Finch who ripped him apart with She-Hulk. I was like, that was you.
That's right on Disassemble.
I started teasing it because Finch drew what's it called? Not like this. He's the artist on that. And I was sitting there at dinner with him. I was like, how do I tease him about this in the best way possible?
That's hilarious. I love and again, you're right. And that was 12 years ago or whatever. I want to say 2004. And then you had Vision rebooted, and wasn't he part of Young Avengers for a while or something?
No, it's so complicated. I mean, that's what's great about the Vision is his history is so complicated.
Post Disassembled, yeah. What happened?
So he was killed. I don't know if I'm gonna get it all right. So forgive me, my friends. He was killed, and it was highly implied that he was rebuilt for Young Avengers, but it turned out that guy was Kang.
Oh, that's right. Yes. Iron Lad was.
Yeah.
Or was there a Vision robot that appeared to be Vision 2.0, and that was Kang?
Yeah, something like that. And then
because Iron Lad, I remember, was the character in Young Avengers, as I remember, becoming Kang. But that's cool. Whatever.
Yeah, something. And I'm sorry, I'm getting this wrong. And then the two children turned out to be Wanda and Vision's children, were brought back to life, and they were in the Young Avengers. I actually never got to touch on that in Vision, which
was
one
that
of my
Hulkling and.
No, it was. I'm sorry, I don't have their names off the top of my head. The one that has white hair and the one that has dark hair. So it's the one one that has Quicksilver-like powers, and the one that has magic-like powers.
Hex powers like Wanda. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. I loved Agatha. I remember how to say it. Being a spirit in
yes,
and everything in your Vision story, and really the one
eating a cat's heart. I kill more animals in my books than I think the average comic book. It's really my calling card of animal death. Poor thing.
Do you think Viv regards Wanda as kind of a surrogate aunt, given that her memorygams helped create her mother and everything?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I mean, the great trick we pulled in Vision was we switched narrators halfway through without telling anyone, and it was Agatha for the first half and then Scarlet for the second half. And so the first half of the story is Agatha telling. I'm sorry, I'm spoiling this book. I like it.
Oh, that's well, I think by now it's out and everything, and yeah, maybe I'm wrong to hold stuff back, but I want to talk about it.
No. Let's just talk spoilers so we can get into the details.
Sure, okay.
The one thing I feel bad is that I think some people are waiting for a complete hardcover of the series, and I have no idea if that's coming or not. And I can see myself waiting for that if I was a fan. So if you are waiting for that, then pause this and come back in 20 seconds. Or I just lied. But I want to get into it. So we switched narrators after issue 6, and so the first half is Agatha telling the Avengers sort of what's going to happen, and the second half is Wanda talking to Viv and explaining what has happened. And we did it so quietly. I was so scared everyone would notice. We switched the colors of the narrator captions from pink for Agatha to red to Scarlet for Scarlet Witch.
Great.
And nobody
I
noticed.
didn't notice it. No, not at all until their conversation after Virginia sacrifices herself and the way it ends and everything. And also the dog. Thank God you saved the dog, for Christ's sake, man.
I wrote in the script when I killed the dog. I rarely put notes in a lot of writers put tons of notes to their artists in their scripts and sort of like, hey man, do that thing. I just write scripts as if I don't usually do that, but in this one I put a parentheses and I was like, don't worry, the dog comes back in the next issue. Because I knew Gabriel would be upset. I knew Geordi would be even more upset.
Well, and it was such a vicious attack. I mean, Virginia was fantastic because, like I said, she starts with that kind of robot error kill at the beginning of the story when she does kill the Grim Reaper, and she kills her neighbor's kid, and and the one kid that likes Viv, and God, that was just all great, and burying bodies and stuff, and then so man, Virginia is such a great tragic character who really is trying to do the right thing and sacrificing herself for her family. I mean, really kind of fulfilling the role that, God, I don't want anything bad to happen for my family. I will make the ultimate sacrifices.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really believe in saying books have themes because I think that's up to the reader, not to me. But that was definitely something I wanted to talk about, was sort of the sacrifices people make for their families, the heroic sacrifices. And then Virginia turns out to be probably the lead character of the book by the end of it. It's sort of her story and her transition. She's really the one. I mean, you see in the last panel that sort of that Vision hasn't really changed that much. I don't know what he's learned. I mean, it's up to the reader to sort of decide. He's gone through something tragic, but Virginia does actually learn something.
Yeah, that's you're right, and really the entire family displays more emotion than Vision.
Yeah. And Vision does. Yeah, he's always sort of reserved. He's always sort of making... I mean, his tragic mistake is, I want to be normal. And does he ever sort of get rid of... I mean, even at the very end, the very last scene, he's trying to tell his daughter to be normal. And... I drop his scissors.
No problem.
And I wrote this sort of trilogy of books, Omega Men, Sheriff, and Vision. I don't know what you want to... I only call them an Untitled Trilogy. That's my new thing, call them. But in all of them, the characters, they don't learn shit. I don't think I believe in people learning lessons from books or learning lessons from arcs. Because I just don't think that's the way... I don't know. It doesn't seem like the way reality goes. I don't know if epiphanies stick around. I think people are who they are.
I hear you.
Or we change in subtler ways than sort of... Than sort of that. So
yeah, the immediate experience doesn't make us immediately different people right away.
Yeah,
I hear you.
That's exactly it. And so Vision carries some of that tragedy with him. God, I rewrote that last page of Vision 7 times. I had 7 different endings for that book until I found one I liked, and then passed it along, where Vision sings the story and recreates the robot. And that whole page got saved. This is really into the weeds of this book. But that whole page got saved at the very last second in the colors, with Geordi deciding to color it white. Because Gabriel had drawn it. I'd put generic robot, and Gabriel drew it as sort of as if he's rebuilding the sun, and rebuilding Vin. And it was too specific. We wanted it to be more generic, yeah, just this idea that he's rebuilding. And so then Geordi did this thing with the colors, where you drain the colors from it, and it looked so great. And it was when I saw the colors for that, I was like, okay, the Vision's done. It's delivered. It's a full package, and it works. I remember I was on the steps of the Capitol, and I looked at my phone, and I looked at that panel. I'm like, okay, this ending clicks. It'll hit. Yeah, I like the Vision. That's good. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff.
Yeah, I like the Vision too, and I think a lot of people did. And
it's cool. Sorry, I'm not. You know, I'm gonna brag here a little bit because I'm gonna brag. What's cool about the Vision is we did something artsy and like the New York Times reviewed the Vision, and it's all in continuity. We didn't leave continuity at all. Yep. Like we like the things that happened to Vision, all the crazy stuff, and we talked about it. And yet it's my one book that like it's penetrated that other audience, that mystical beyond comics audience, like Seth Meyers read it and shit. But it's mired in continuity, and I'm so proud that, like, because I love continuity, I love that strength of comics, and that we can sort of show that that even though we have this 75-year history, we don't have to view that as a weight, but as a weapon to use.
Yes.
And I love that part of that book.
I think
that anyone can pick it up, but it's still very Marvel.
I understand, and I think the same can be said for your Batman run as well. I mean, that's the thing is you're not afraid to use continuity to tell new stories, and that's great. And yeah, I mean, that's the thing. You can drop the mic, with Marvel for now. And that's a great 12 issues, and I think it obviously did make this huge dent beyond the comics world, and that's great. I didn't know Seth was among the people. I've seen a lot of great pop culture websites that kind of dabble in comics, but comics isn't their main focus, and they've all on the best of lists and stuff like that. Vision is right there, and well, it should be, man. I mean, again, yeah, you're right. It's not a Vertigo story. It's not an Elseworlds in any way, or and those are DC phrases, but a what if?
Yeah, a what if?
Yeah, I mean, that's great, and you're right. I mean, that's the thing, and I think you leave the Vision changed, or at least that experience is now part of his other experiences. But like you said, Wade is writing Avengers, and Vision is there, and it'll be interesting how another writer might come back to this and let this story resonate, or yourself, should you down the line find yourself working for the other side of the street and everything. Who knows?
I don't think I'd ever do another Vision story. I think I did what I could with it.
Okay.
Unlike Sheriff or even Omega Men, I just think Vision's just it's one package. I don't think it's something that wouldn't benefit from issue 13 for me to do it.
Sure.
Someone else can do it, not from.
Okay.
This sounds very I'm sorry for my bragginess audience, but like sometimes you write something you're like, I can't do better than that. You just want to run away from it. So that's how I feel.
Okay. I get that. Absolutely. No, dude, hey man, take the lap. Take the victory lap.
No, never take a victory lap. Trust me. I get enough shit on that Twitter to tell me.
The job is never over. I mean that is kind of the thing. But no, you I mean, well, truly, because okay, that was good. So what's next? I mean, that's really especially the DC and Marvel fan. Hey, there's always next month. You got to move on. The Galactus Fantastic Four story, the first story that Lee and Kirby did with Galactus, as epic as it was, they still had to put seeds in for the next. Okay, so what are we doing now? Johnny's going to college.
Okay, this man, this monster, right? We'll just follow with the best single issue of all time.
That wasn't right after, was it? I think it was before. I want to say
you won.
Wasn't this monster before Galactus? I could be wrong.
I don't know. There was internet out.
I just remember that. Yeah, exactly. You let everyone. Please feel free to correct us if I'm right or wrong.
Oh, and tell me who the Young Avengers I didn't know were.
There you go. And yeah, Johnny. No, I just remember that it was literally in the same issue. All right.
Wiccan's one of them. There, my brain's catching up.
Wiccan is one of them. Okay.
Wiccan Speedo.
Well, and Hulkling was a Skrull, right?
Hulkling was a Skrull, yeah. I love that stuff, man, that Alan Heinrich stuff.
That sounds like the title of a book or something like Hulkling was a Skrull, the sad true stories of the Marvel Universe.
I will write that book.
There you go.
I miss writing for Marvel. I do. I love that world. My son got like a Marvel trivia box.
I saw that. I saw you post that on Twitter today. Yeah, tell me about that.
We went. It's just a box full of stupid Marvel trivia, and my son brought it out and started banging with questions. And I was like, "Man, I am killing it!" I was one after another.
Does it get into Silver Age stuff, or is it all new Marvel trivia?
It jumps around. I mean, it's probably like 5 years. Like I think it's probably like 5 years old or something. So it doesn't get to the new stuff, but. it gets around. I missed the stupidest one. My kid was making fun of me. Captain America's shield. I was like, yeah, adamantium. I was like, oh no, it's vibranium. He's like, too late. I was like, I referenced that in Vision. There's an issue about the shield being made out of vibranium.
That's one of my favorite covers too, of 11, of the dog catching Cap shield. That's fantastic.
Dude, Mike Del Mundo is a goddamn genius cover artist.
My God, for real, man. The entire 12 issues. Holy shit! Seriously, I mean that's the thing. The entire package, from as you said, from lettering, coloring, art, and cover art, and you. No, it's. I mean, that's the thing. It had a very distinct look, and I think I really do think it set it apart on the shelf. Definitely, man.
Yeah, I mean, it makes it easy to write, and then there's there were a few issues that were a week or two late where Marvel could let it run. I think that helps. DC, I mean, you can credit them or not credit them, but DC does not go late. Their books come out on time. Doesn't matter if they have 62 inkers, your book is coming out. I mean, that's not true for every book. I mean, look at Dark Knight, but.
Right.
But it was nice in Marvel that they gave Gabriel at the end just a little more time to breathe and get the last issue out, which I really appreciated.
That's cool. Yeah. No, I would agree with that, definitely. God. Oh, and I was going to ask you when you were talking about the trivia. Here's one of my tangents. You remember Silver String or Trivial Pursuit, right? Of course.
I'm aware of the game.
Did you ever have the Silver Screen edition?
No, I want to have it now.
Well, you might be able to still find it like on an eBay or like Amazon as a used thing or something like that. But they made them way back when the craze was really at its peak, and they had so many different versions. There's a great music trivia one that I think was called RPM. But the Silver Screen one, it really is hardcore, and it goes from the silent era to the modern age then, which was like 1981 or 1982. And I have another movie buff friend, and when we play Trivial Pursuit, that's like our nerd poker, because what we'll play, like we'll each put up $5 a game or whatever, and just play like 3 or 4 games, and whoever wins at the end, they got the money. And
oh, dude, invite me to a game. I won't win, but I'll be able to play.
Oh, you got it, man. No, honestly, I really am. I'm thrilled when my friends who are slightly younger and stuff are like, no, I want to play. And no, that's a big deal, and it's good because it's not easy. It's a hard game, and I really appreciate like a good hard trivia game. I don't want it too easy. And in fact, I bought because you just got the boxes of questions, you didn't get the game board. So I bought a new version of Trivial Pursuit, and just out of curiosity, I went through the cards. First of all, they give a lot less cards in the current version of the game than they used to, and secondly, they dumbed down the game. And it's like, no, man, make it hard, make it challenging. Let's make people think for a minute or whatever. You want to play if you want to play. Don't Break the Ice, or I'm trying to think of the really simple board games.
Candyland.
Exactly. Go play Candyland.
Kid, you'll know them.
I love Candyland.
Dude, I would love to play that. So I've become like in my old Hollywood obsessed. My brain can't get enough of old Hollywood stuff. I just read the new Alfred Hitchcock biography.
Oh, cool! Who wrote that?
Peter Ackroyd.
Sure.
It's a short biography, but it's like goes through every one of his films and sort of, what a crazy, horrible person he was to make such beautiful art.
Yeah, no kidding. Did you read the John Wayne Scott Iman book?
I did. I read the John Wayne Scott Iman book.
I read that this year, and that just blew me away in so many positive ways. And I've ever since then, I always thought I was kind of a John Wayne fan. Now I must see everything that was referenced in the book.
I'm a huge John Wayne fan. I mean, obviously his politics are horrible.
I would agree. Go on.
This is not my own quote. This is from, I want to say George Will. If you haven't read the John Wayne book by, here it's on my shelf, I'm pulling it, by Gary Wills. Gary Wills.
Go on.
He said, is like, here's a guy who avoided service in World War II, who then condemned people for avoiding the draft in Vietnam. And he's like, that's just an unforgivable sin. Like, you can't come back from that.
I agree with you. It's weird. Although it seems, and I don't know if Wills did this, but Iman did point out those rare exceptions of liberals of, well, I disagree with you, but I respect you. that came across Wayne's World. Did you see Trumbo? I'm sure you saw Trumbo.
I did see Trumbo. Yeah.
I thought their depiction of John Wayne was very good. And
I thought so.
The guy didn't look like John Wayne, but he really did kind of evoke the spirit of Wayne.
I agree. Yeah,
and you know what I just found on Amazon? Speaking of John Wayne, there's an old, and it looks like an old ABC TV special they did on John Ford. Really, just probably a year or so before he passed away, and it was narrated by Fonda, Jimmy Stewart, and Wayne. And Wayne is really the main narrator. And there's a lot of great little tidbits of the movies they made together and their relationship. And they're very Fonda was like a complete master, master sergeant to, Wayne's private, and really never treated Wayne like a big star. It's like, screw you, man. I knew you when. But that's fine. And it's kind of interesting. And also, God, just Wayne's own, his marriages and how horrible they all were. And, the guy just never caught a break, I think, in his personal life in some ways. He's an interesting man. He's a complicated man.
He is. He's a complicated man. And like you said, there are redeemable features. I mean, he had a sense of humor about it. He went to the Harvard Club when he was famously old, and they roasted him, and he just admitted to being an old cranky conservative.
Yeah, and for people who don't know what we're talking about, it would be, although his politics are oddly different and in some ways very unknown, but it would be as if a jerky, university like Harvard and the Lampoon were to invite Donald Trump, and Donald Trump would very graciously accept and say, "By all means, make fun of me. Okay, I got no problem with that. Go ahead."
Yeah,
and Trump is not that kind of guy. Whereas John Wayne absolutely is like, "Sure, let's talk."
And John Wayne was he was an avid chess player. He directed parts of his movies. He wrote parts of his. I mean, he was not the dumb jock.
Exactly.
The figure that I think is to remember. And just the guy had screen presence, an unbelievable screen, and is a hope to all of us. People in their late 30s as I am, because his career didn't really start till he was 40. Him and Stan Lee are the hope for all of us.
You're right about that. No, you're right.
That great fame can start there.
He made a movie in 1930 called The Big Trail, when he was absolutely young and beautiful and at his Brad Pitt best, and it bombed, and it forced him to make B movies for the first 10 years of his career, and then finally Stagecoach is really what started everything. But it really wasn't. You're right. The sweet spot really was the 40s. Probably late 40s or whatever, where he really started to become John Wayne. Not Sancho Iwo Jima, I suppose, and some of those other war films and everything, but the complex John Wayne and everything, the Searchers and the stuff from the 50s. I mean, really, I have a new appreciation even for those last 70s movies, too, like Big Jake and Cahill, U.S. Marshal, and I like Chisholm. Chisholm is one of my favorite John Wayne movies.
Chisholm.
Fine Force.
Chisholm's has a weird politics to it. That's a very conservative movie.
I'm gonna have to watch it again. Maybe I'm missing the Comancheros from the early '60s with Stuart Whitman. Big fan of that one.
Yeah, I like The Shootist.
I love The Shootist.
Yeah, that's a fantastic.
Brannigan and McHugh are a little weird, but I still watch them and I think they're funny. His cop.
What I don't like is True Grit. The one he won the Academy Award for. I don't like his Rooster Cogburn.
Really?
I think. Yeah, I think it's just too, because it's the one time he's trying to act, he's trying to play a character, and I just think it comes off a little too much.
Oh, that's funny.
It's like he's trying too hard.
See,
this is why people turned in, right? For me and you to.
Much like when we went off on Ben Crosby for an hour. Why not? I got no problem with that.
But I can bring this back to comic books. Watch this. This is amazing. So, I don't know if people read the Batman, but the final arc of Batman, I Am Bane, is a Rio Bravo tribute, really, where we're doing...
the arc that's coming up now?
The arc that's coming... We just finished I Am Suicide. So the first arc was I Am God.
Right.
We just finished I Am Suicide. And then we're going to have these two issues which come out, 13 and 14 come out in the next 2 or 3 weeks. And they're romance issues. It's Catwoman, Batman romance comics, sure. And then we start the new arc, which is I Am Bane. And I'll talk more about the Catwoman stuff to pitch it, but that's a Rio Bravo story. We've been sort of setting this up.
That's hilarious.
With Bronze Tiger as Dean Martin, and and
Who's Ricky Nelson? Is Punch Ricky Nelson?
And Duke is Ricky Nelson.
Oh, Duke, of course, is Ricky Nelson. Okay.
Yeah, I couldn't quite do. I wanted to do the whole thing as a 1-to-1 ratio, but we kind of got off tracks. But it starts with a silent sequence. This is very. But if you get to Batman 15, you'll see the Rio Bravo. So the sequence. It starts with a silent sequence, which has to do with a Rio Bravo starts with Dean Martin making a bad decision and starts with the famously an 8-minute silent sequence, and then John Wayne rescues him. Yeah, it's amazing. And so we started with Bronze Tiger making a bad decision, and it's a silent sequence with Batman rescuing him.
That's hilarious. Wow.
But I mean, Rio Bravo is the perfect Batman movie because it's about. It's a very simple story, which I like. I like superhero stories to be very simple, where he's got a prisoner, and there's somebody coming to get the prisoner, and he has to keep that guy for 5 days, and he doesn't want anybody to help him, because he knows the guys are going to come to kill him, and he's the only one, and he wants to kill him, but all his friends keep trying to help him. So it's such a Batman story, but that's every Batman story, right? It's like, I can do this by myself. No, you need help. It's famously a reverse of High Noon because of all the communists, but anyways, you can get into that stuff. But,
you're right about that.
But yeah, so the John Wayne stuff does play back in.
That's very interesting. I like that. Who's Walter Brennan in the Batman story? The ventriloquist?
Dude, Alfred, right? It's got to be Alfred.
Of course, that's hilarious. Well, I don't know if you can do this, Master Bruce, but I suppose you can.
We do it. I literally have him, because sorry, people should go out and see that movie. But
Rio Bravo's amazing. It really is a great drama, and as Tom said, it's very simple. The story is very simple. It's a whole lot of character. The first 8 minutes will suck you in, and that's your all right, I'm in, or okay, that's enough. But at least see the first 8 minutes, and it will really make you appreciate Howard Hawks as a filmmaker and storyteller. Yeah,
Howard Hawks is my favorite movie maker, I think, of all time.
He's one of
maybe.
mine.
No, actually, no. George Stevens, my favorite.
And I like George Stevens too. Well, that's the thing. I could never even only come up with one. All right, here's one more Hollywood tangent. 5 came back.
I just read that. With George.
I'm very happy you did that, man, because it came out last year or 2 years ago, and I absolutely loved it. And it makes me, for people who don't know, 5 Came Back is about the Hollywood directors who went to World War II to work for the government and make propaganda films to boost morale for the American public about the boys fighting and dying, unfortunately. And there are some incredible things. And it was John Huston, George Stevens, William Wyler, John Ford, and who's my fifth? It wasn't hard. Oh, Frank Capra, of course. And my point is that Frank Capra, as much as I love and still love Frank Capra, reading that made me rewatch some of those Frank Capra movies, and I kind of agree that maybe I was giving Frank Capra a little too much credit as a filmmaker, because I think his 30s movies are very strong. I always felt the same way about his 40s movies, but now I think about it, and really, I don't know. I don't think he evolved the way the other guys did.
I'm going to disagree with that. In the one movie, It's a Wonderful Life, which I just rewatched.
Love that movie, of course. The Christmas classic.
Because I really that book really affected me because I was in the CIA, so it's not the same. But I went off and did the war thing and then tried to make art out of it. So I was trying. That book was really inspiring to me on some levels, and I watching It's a Wonderful Life from that point of view of this is the first movie he made when he came back from the war. It was the only movie he actually wrote himself, and you can see it in it. You can see this struggle of a guy who went to war thinking he wanted to save the world and then got stuck in Washington D.C. making propaganda films that never really amounted to anything. And that story is so much about, and you can it's either him minding his own pain, or it's the ultimate nepotism, or not nepotism, but whatever it is, looking at yourself in the mirror too much. Where he's making a movie about a guy who is underappreciated, who was always trying to do something bigger and never achieved it.
Yeah.
I think it's very much like him recognizing his own. It's either him recognizing his own tragedy or him puffing up his own ego, and it's a combination of those things. I think it makes it a very fascinating film in that term.
Well, I agree with It's a Wonderful Life, but I really am like, and I guess I'm talking more about things like Hole in the Head and Pocketful of Miracles is really a remake of his 30s movie Lady for a Day, which I do think is an amazing movie.
But if you go back and watch the fascist one, not Mr. Deeds, but it's one of the Mr. movies.
Okay, because Mr. Deeds.
The one with Barbara Stanwyck, and you're just
Meet John Doe. Meet John Doe.
Meet John Doe. Yeah,
again, that's a 30s movie, and I think that his 30s movies were great. I think.
I think It's a Wonderful Life is just somewhere beyond all those films. Even Mr. Smith Goes to Washington gets on my nerves for its weird politics a little bit.
I can appreciate that, but I just think of that post. I don't know if State of the Union, where Spencer Tracy's running for president, and there's stuff on that I like, where he's married to Katharine Hepburn and he's kind of having an affair with Angela Lansbury. This shows you how old this movie is. Angela Lansbury is the young hot woman that Spencer Tracy is cheating on with instead of Katharine Hepburn. So,
God, Angela Lansbury's still around. Isn't that crazy?
Man, I'm telling you. Well, and I will swing this back to comics.
Olivia de Havilland's still around.
Yes, she
so
is.
There's still some left. Poor Debbie Reynolds.
I was about to say, I don't want to evoke any old person's name because we still got enough days left of 2016 that someone else is going to fall. I couldn't. I mean, the double whammy of George Michael and Carrie Fisher still just what a numbing weekend. My God. What was I going to say? And I was going to swing this back to comics because you revealed to me that one of your main jobs in the CIA was recruiting terrorists and stuff. And obviously, I'm assuming that might have played a role in I Am Suicide and gathering this team.
Yeah, my CIA stuff plays a role in everything I write. I'm not allowed to write about it directly. I mean, obviously, I wrote this book called Sheriff of Babylon, which is like a war novel set back in Iraq, and that actually had to be approved by the CIA. So I could. It's odd because it had to be approved. I could talk more about stuff because I knew if I hit a line, they'd tell me to go back, so I could get a little closer to the line.
Okay.
Not that I ever would. I mean, I have definitely talked to horrible people and asked them to leave jail and do favors for me. So I guess I have that unique experience that when Batman's doing that in Arkham, that's something I can relive myself. But I don't know. You have to add the comic book magic to it, or else it doesn't work.
I hear you, man. And am I right? And forgive me for asking probably an obvious question, but I like the way you've kind of tweaked Bronze Tiger. And I guess maybe it was something that wasn't obvious to me back in the 80s when I used to read John Ostrander's version and stuff. I always thought Bronze Tiger, kind of like in the way Katana in the movie, isn't really one of the criminals, but is working with the Suicide Squad. I always thought Bronze Tiger, even though he was trained by the League of Assassins, had, redeemed himself as a superhero, but was still working with the bad guys and kind of like a lieutenant to Rick Flag to kind of keep everybody in check. But then I like the way you kind of have it where the cover story is, no, he's just as bad as everybody else. And he's sitting up and kind of, and I love that exchange with him and Batman where it's like, it's about time you got here,
Well, we had used him. I love the Bronze Tiger, so I use him whenever I can. I'm a huge fan of that Outstrander run. I have a page of Suicide Squad up my wall with Bronze Tiger. And,
wow.
So I'd used him very briefly at the end of Grayson, where we had made him a super spy, just because we needed some super spies, and I was like, I want to use Bronze Tiger, and that seemed like something he would do. And I wanted to use him. I wanted to use as many classic Outstrander characters as I could without flooding it. So that's why I punched in Julian Bronze Tiger in here. And I was like, why would Bronze Tiger be in Arkham? It doesn't make any sense. I was like, of course, he's a spy. They disavowed him, and suddenly he's telling everybody he's a spy, and they're like, no, he's not. He's a crazy person for thinking that. I was like, that would land you in jail. And so I have him in there for manslaughter, having done something slightly bad. I think of him like, but it's the first thing I did when I wrote. Sorry, I'm going back to old movies. People even bore the shit out of me. But I watched Dirty Dozen. The famous Jim Brown scene at the beginning where he's just like, obviously he's the only innocent person there, and he's just like, fuck these. I want him to be the one innocent guy in jail who's like kind of bad. But then I gave him a Venom addiction, just to make him a little bit tragic, because no Tom character can be non-tragic.
So was that in Grayson, or is that in the? Did I miss?
That's it. That's at the end of it's hinted at. There's a lot of stuff you get, but it's in Suicide, they say it in one issue where it's like, oh, he looks like he's going through the sweats a little with a Venom addiction, and then in the last issue in five to execute Batman's plan, he has to break out of. I'm spoiling the shit out of I Am Suicide.
Well,
sorry, everybody.
That's okay, and I mean it's out. 13's been out for like a week.
It's out. I don't mind. And to get out of prison, he had to inject himself with Venom, basically to execute the plan. And so that's why we start, again, putting him in the Dean Martin role. If you've seen that movie, it's about a guy quitting alcohol. We start...
Well, yeah, clearly, Venom is going to be the Venom drug is going to be a big deal in this Bane arc, because certainly the way it ended with Bane kind of having kicked Venom... prior to I Am Suicide, now demanding the drug to come back to put him at his full strength again.
Yeah. So the next arc with I Am Bane will feature your classic Bane, roided out on Venom, back in the costume, with Dave Finch drawing every single vein you'd ever want to see in a Bane arm. Oh my God, he draws them so beautifully. It's like nobody draws roided out people like David Finch does. It's perfect.
Is Vandal Savage's daughter ever going to reappear in? Wasn't she kind of in Gale's run?
I know. I love the Bane from Gale's run, but I don't really have room to touch on it in this arc.
Okay. Yeah. All right.
No, I love what she did with Bane. The characterization. There's a fantastic love scene, and she's great.
Isn't it Scandal? Isn't her name Scandal Savage or whatever?
Scandal Savage.
Yeah. Oh no, and it was this really complicated, I'm putting air quotes up, love story where he obviously was so devoted to her. She was, if not only lesbian, then maybe bisexual, but but she really did feel some level of devotion to him as well.
Yeah, I worship that stuff so much. I think it needs to stand on its own. I didn't want to sort of half reference it without embracing it. So I think people who love that much as me should go to the Gale stuff and read it again.
Secret Six, kids. Yeah.
Secret Six is brilliant. Yeah, it's my favorite Gail Simone stuff.
Tremendous run. Absolutely, man. No, that original Secret Six run for Gale was really, really great. Yeah, I loved it. Coming out of Infinite Crisis.
Yeah, I debated using Catman for this arc. I was like, there's some characters that I can't write Catman better than Gail Simone. Why even try?
I'm glad you brought Bronze Tiger back, because I think he's great. Great character of color. Always a very interesting character, I think, throughout the Bronze Age. And really, I don't know who's used him much beyond you since the Ostrander Suicide Squad days.
They are fools.
Yeah.
Because people are like, what? Bronze Tiger? Because I had Bronze Tiger best Batman in the first issue, in issue 9. And they're like, that's stupid. Nobody beats him. I was like, go back and read the original Bronze Tiger story. He beats up Batman the first time he sees him. And Batman's injured in that story. But that's from continuity. Like, that's how cool Bronze Tiger is. He was one of the leaders of the League of Assassins who trained Batman. So
exactly.
And I like the fact that they know each other and they're old friends.
No, and I really, again, I love this level of deep cover that, depending on how things play out and stuff, I love that you've introduced him as far as the public world is concerned, this is another criminal. And I think that's really cool. That's great.
Thanks, yeah. I like that character. But it's funny because, we talk about I Am Suicide for long, we haven't touched on Catwoman, but that's all anybody talks about I Am Suicide is the Catwoman part.
Well, and I mean, obviously, again, it's coming up with the romance and everything. And certainly that I was going to get to Catwoman because, well, how can you not? I mean, again, the kind of love letter inner monologues the two were having about each other in a couple of the chapters and stuff, I think that was great. And again, this is where you've got a simple story, but it allows for you to get into deep characterization. And again, these are conversations or thoughts between the two characters that I don't think have been explained that way. And some of it obviously is informed by what's happened to them. I mean, Hush, I think, is the closest we come to where we've really gotten inside the two of them. And also at the beginning of the New 52 when Judd Winnick... and honestly... I mean that because I'm one of the few people that I wasn't mad that Judd did that, Judd Winnick, and we talked about that, and I'm like, no, they've got a screwed up relationship, and you've shown a different side of this very screwed up relationship, introducing it, and clearly we're going to get more into it in the next two issues.
Yeah, that infamous page from Catwoman 152 is recontextualized in Batman 13, or we reference it because I think it's part of like when people close their eyes and think about it. Yeah, the Catwoman thing took me a little bit by surprise. It was the first time I had gotten death threats over Twitter and all that kind of thing.
What if I haven't been paying? Forgive me, I haven't been paying attention. What didn't they like? They thought it was too what?
Oh, they really didn't like that I made her a killer. That I said she killed 237 people.
Okay.
And they're like, that's completely out of character, and that she would never do that, and you're an asshole, and go choke yourself. I hope you choke on something. It was very choke oriented for some reason, and to be perfectly blunt, they were 100% correct about all of that stuff, and I wanted to tell them, like, I agree with you. This is totally out of character. This is not who she should do. It's not what she would ever do, and the problem is you're too smart and you're one step ahead of the story. And I wish I could tell you that, but I can't because it would ruin the story for you. And that's what issue 12 was about, where Batman was like, I don't believe you. You say you killed 237 people. I think you're lying, and that's not who you are. And I have to find out why you lied, and that's a mystery that I have to solve as the world's greatest detective. So it was my first sort of taste of like a little bit of a little bit of bad internet backlash, and I don't know. I appreciate the passion of all those people. I don't know how to say it. It wasn't so horrible.
Well, good. It wasn't. Again, you're saying that this is a mystery that's going to be covered in 14 and 15, I guess.
Yeah, 14 and 15. Sorry, I'm getting my numbers mixed up. I was double shipping, mix my numbers up. Yeah, so in 14 and 15, Mitch Gerrits, who did
Sheriff of Babylon, of course.
Sheriff of Babylon with me, and who's just my favorite artist in comics, maybe. And I'm lucky to be working with him. And it comes in and does a two issue arc. We had originally solicited this. Mitch and I were going to do a Swamp Thing story, which I wrote. As sort of a Marvel, like a Brave and the Bold kind of story. I call it the Brave and the Mold. Yeah, clever. I'm so good.
I like
and it was gonna lead to some Swamp Thing stuff that DC was gonna do, but DC decided to push the Swamp Thing stuff back a little bit. And so I planned for one issue of Catwoman and then one issue of that Swamp Thing thing, and I just realized that this Catwoman story was getting bigger and bigger. So I asked Mitch to come on for 2 issues so we could do one sort of Catwoman thing for 2 issues and sort of give you, to try to give you their relationship and how important it is, this book going forward, and to write something that's just genuinely touching, which no one in the comics can do better than Mitch. If you've read Sheriff, something that can, make you cry just a little bit,
absolutely,
make you laugh. It's nice to do a little bit of a quiet story. It's called Rooftops, and I think people are going to dig it. I hope people are going to dig it. And it's also my apologies to all those Bat fans out there who thought I was ruining the relationship, to be like, no, man, I'm one of you. Come, let's like party together. Thank you for sticking this out. This is your reward kind of thing.
That's cool. No, I'm excited, man. And again, I think the narrative that we read, I love her seeming disgust of, on the one hand, growing up in the orphanages, and I love the little slice you put in that the Waynes were funding at one of them, and she had to kind of like look at that idealized, portrait of the Wayne family, and just like, God, I would imagine myself with you in that portrait and stuff, and that was great.
Yeah. I was like, well, I mean, Catwoman's not going to be. I mean, everyone's like, you made Catwoman a serial killer. Catwoman's never going to be a serial killer. Like, obviously, that's not part of her character. But I think when people do those, because what happens in the story is like an ISIS attack blows up her orphanage and she kills everyone in the organization. And I have that instinct too. Like when ISIS, drives a truck. You want to kill anyone who gave an order, anyone who had anything to do with that. I mean, Lord knows I had that instinct. I fucking joined the CIA to try to do it. And so I wanted to make it like, what would people kill for? And I think the average person might kill for that. And so maybe Catwoman did, maybe she didn't. You'll find out in the next few issues. Cool. But I wanted to show that only something as horrific as that, the thing that could break you could break her, basically. If you think about your emotions when a terrorist attack happens and how you want to go out and strangle 1,000 people and you don't, but if you had that ability, maybe in that moment you would. That's who she is, except she can do it. She has that ability. But of course Batman sees that, and Caesar says that and says, no, you do have that ability, but you'd never actually do it because you're stronger than that. And we'll see who's right, Catwoman or Batman.
Very cool. Excellent. I want to congratulate Michael Janin as well. Is it Mikel or Michael?
It's Mikel Janin.
Mikel Janin, thank you very much.
Yes.
Well, I appreciate getting the pronunciation right, because I love a trick that I was noticing as I was rereading to prep to talk tonight and everything. I love the idea that he will do a background splash image, and then instead of panels, you've almost just got, it's divided, whether it's thirds or whatever, to show the progression of action, but the backdrop is still that same one image. And a perfect example of that is as they're going through the labyrinth of Bane's headquarters to get to him for their secret mission. You got that great, scene of like all the pipes and them climbing on the pipes. And it literally is just a bunch of different images on each separate pipe of Batman or whomever climbing, but it's that same grouping of pipes. I think that's great. That's really clever, and I don't remember seeing that kind of a presentation of a page or design of a page like that before. Have you?
No, I mean, Mikel's an architect. Like that's the job he did before this. So he has this great design sense for how things work. And I've been working with Mikel now for 3 years, right? Because we did Grayson together.
Okay. Did he do that in Grayson? Would he do stuff like that?
He did it a little. I mean, nobody. This skill that Mikel has, he has these two things that he does better than anybody else, which is he draws ghost images, or I don't know what you call them. I still don't know it, but basically when you have a Carmine Infantino situation where Carmine Infantino, where you have a character moving and they're moving so fast that you see ghost images of them.
Sure.
Right. He does that better than anybody in comics. And another thing he does in comics is he does horizontal pages amazingly well. Like when I think of comics, I'm very vertical. I think of a comic sort of going down. I often think of the same shot going down. That's why you've seen so many 9-panel grids in my work. Mm-hmm. Mikel thinks of a comic as a horizontal object, and he'll combine pages that I write. This is getting complicated, but I write them up and down, and he'll combine them to go left and right, almost Bendis style. Bendis is most famous for this, right? And so in issue 12, I realized like this issue is going to be so simple. It's all it is Batman fighting a bunch of people, and I was like, all right, I'm going to stop holding Mikel back because I feel like I'm constantly sort of pulling on the reins sometimes with him. And I'm like, I told him, I was like, for this issue, we're just going to do 10 splashes, and you can do whatever you want. It's going to be 8 double page splashes and 2 splashes on the ends. And I just gave guidance on what's happening in the scene. And you do whatever you want. And I actually gave him. They messed up the lettering, but I gave him story credit for it. I gave him half of my paycheck, so that we could sort of write it together because my writing was like panel 1 fight, panel 2 fight. It wasn't even worth it. I wasn't getting paid for it. So we shared sort of story credit, and he did an amazing job of sort of putting it together and making it flow. And then Clayton Close and then the trick of that issue, what made that issue so hard was like he did it beautifully, but if I don't write the right dialogue, your eye is not going to stop. Like you're just going to flip through it in 10 seconds, and you'd be like, what the fuck is this comic book? I paid $3 for this thing. So I had to write something that was worth those pictures, and I could get you to pause. And so that's the Batman letter, and where he like admits that I had to change continuities a little bit, or and he admits to try to kill himself when he made his vow. And I think it works. It's my favorite. It's my favorite issue of the run so far. And it's funny that your favorite issue is the issue you write the least of, but sometimes it's the way comics work.
That's awesome, man. No, I think that's amazing. And man, I'm telling you, you've been blessed with amazing collaborators. Truly, this is ridiculous. I know we've talked about it a little bit before, and then we've given Mitch his due, and we've given Gabriel his due. So I'm glad that we finally give Mike Mikel his due as well.
And David Finch, don't forget my brother.
And shame on me, of course, David Finch. Yeah, Dave, and nothing. Don't get me wrong, Dave's a rock star. Dave was a rock star before I opened my mouth. It's okay.
That's right. He doesn't need the love.
I'm sure he does need the love. He's got his wife to love him. That's all right. and he's got millions of fans. And no, he's great. I've always been a fan. We mentioned Disassembled. I loved his Moon Knight back in the day.
Well, what I'm really proud of in Batman, and I hope people see it, is the art, because a lot of these double ship books, the art's suffering. I think people are I mean, no offense to anyone, but when you're double shipping, it's hard to get the art straight. And Mark Doyle came up with this plan in the beginning to do these sort of 5-issue arcs and then fill in artists in between to give people rest, so that you could, at the end, you get 3 trades with 3 consistent artists through the whole thing.
That's cool.
And we've stuck to that plan, and that's the reason we're the only book that did this, where you get 5 Finches in a row, and then you get a break, you get Ivan Reis, and then you get 5 Mikels in a row, and you get a break, you get Mitch Gerrards, and then you get 5 Finches in a row.
That's great.
And then you're going to get a break, and I think I can't pronounce who it's going to be, but his name rhymes with Jason Fabok. And then
that's awesome.
And then
terrific.
And then you're going to get 5 Mikels in a row. So
that's great, man.
Actually, it's going to be 6. So I mean, we're very planned out to make sure that the art doesn't suffer because of this 2-week schedule. Because that was my big worry, that the art would suffer. But
I think everybody's concern. I think every writer had that concern, and I certainly think that a lot of readers did as well. And no, that's great. I'm glad you're getting good solutions, man. And again, no, I that's the thing. I don't think the art dips. And I kind of think everybody complements each other. I mean, Finch and Mikel are definitely very different, as is Mitch, but I don't know. It seems to work. And maybe, is it always? Who's your colorist here? I'm looking. June Chung. Is June always the colorist, or does Finch color his own stuff? Or
no, so Jordy colors Finch.
Okay.
Jordy Blair colors Finch. And June Chung colors Mikel. So we have 2 different, and the letters are different. The great John Workman. Who, if you don't know his work, he lettered Simonson on Thor, so his work.
Yeah, long-time lettering genius. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So he does the Finch stuff, and Clayton is doing.
He does Finch stuff, and then Clayton does the Mikel stuff.
That's cool.
And Mitch always colors himself, so Mitch is his own animal.
Very cool.
And so we have rotating teams, and we have the best teams. I mean, all those people who work on that book are the best they can be. Are the best. They're people at the height of their game.
It's got to feel good not only to have Vision in a lot of best of 2016 lists, but also Sheriff of Babylon.
Yeah, Sheriff of Babylon. I look at I always look. This is never going to happen to me again. You're only the new blood once, the new hot thing once. Like, I'll never have a year like this again. So please know that I'm grateful for this. But it's interesting as all these lists come out and to see like whether they choose Sheriff, Omega Men, or Vision to be on the list. I'm always like, oh, they chose Sheriff and Vision. I was like, they must hate Omega Men. I shouldn't have fucked that up. Or they'll choose Omega Men. I'm like, oh, they must have hated Vision. Why did I mess with? Like the Hollywood Reporter gave a ton of love to Omega Men, but Wired didn't, or Wired gave love to all 3, and then Kamikaze. It's funny. I I'm always happy when I see the list, and then I get unhappy immediately after because I feel like I fucked something up with one of the other 3. Or Batman's on any list, so I'm like, oh, I must have fucked something up with Batman.
No, but that's the thing. I think Batman is its own thing, and I think it gets judged as its own thing. So, and again, coming off of Scott, it is really hard to, I think, come up with something new to say about Batman, and I think you're doing it, like I said.
No, well, you're sweet.
Oh,
I mean, Batman's the Yankees. Nobody wants to
right.
say their favorite team is the Yankees, or they're like the Dallas Cowboys. You know, nobody's like, let me write a 10-page article on why the Dallas Cowboys are great. Nobody wants to read that. So I totally understand, and I love working on Batman. I love my collaborators, so I got no problem with it.
Let's take a break from the interview and tell you about our sponsor, Geek Fuel, a great subscription box service that ships out a mystery box each month that has at least $50 worth of value for only $15 plus shipping and handling. Some of the things that have really tickled my fancy include a cutting board for your kitchen that's shaped like a Nintendo game cartridge, a cool dragon's egg-shaped toothbrush holder, great downloadable games, and so much more. And because it's the end of the year, there's a great deal going on where you can save an additional $3 off of any plan. So really, the lowest plan is under $15, $13.90 if you act now. And the way to act now is to go to geekfuel.com/wordballoon, where not only will you get your subscription box started, but also you'll get a free first gift. So it's even more than the 5 to 7 gifts you normally get. An additional gift will be provided if you go to geekfuel.com/wordballoon. Act now. geekfuel.com/wordballoon.
Well, but we should talk about Sheriff.
Yeah, man. No,
Sorry, I got distracted by my own ego.
No, I really think Sheriff succeeds. You guys and certainly Gail with Clean Room and a couple other Vertigo books. It's nice to see that Vertigo has found its footing once again and is the important imprint it always has been. And I'm really glad that so many people have discovered Sheriff of Babylon and appreciate it as much as they do.
Yeah, I was rereading because, I don't know, issue 5. I'm so proud of issue 5 of Sheriff of Babylon. It's getting some love as like the best issue of the year. I was like, yes, thank you so much, because that's the one.
Issue?
No, that's the. Although I like that's the more just the two of them talking for a whole issue. It's like Chris and Nasser's wife are talking just in a basement for an issue.
Okay.
And it's like our bottle issue, whatever you call that.
Sure.
Yeah, I like how Sheriff. I mean, Mitch did the shit out of Sheriff, and he nailed it. Mitch and I are doing Sheriff 2 is coming out in another year and a half, I think.
That's what I was going to ask. Okay, very good.
And then I can only tease it now because I can't announce it yet, or else Dan will come on and yell at me, or I'll think he's you and he'll yell at me. But Mitch and I are doing a separate series. It's sort of a follow up to Vision. Like I literally went. Can I give you some background?
Of course.
Inside stories.
Yes, please.
So we were looking after sort of Sheriff was ending, and I wanted to do something in the gap that was superhero-y. I wanted to take a break before Sheriff 2 came out. Basically because I'm conflicted about the rights issues and all that.
The rights. Okay. In terms
and in terms of other media and how that stuff's handled.
Okay.
Because every contract is different, and so Mitch and I co-own part of Sheriff, but also DC co-owns. So it's a little complicated.
Okay, so and I just want to clarify. So what you're saying is the 12-issue story obviously is being optioned. If you add anything to it, it possibly could fall under that same option.
It would fall under that same option.
Right, there you go. Okay.
Yeah. So everything we do into Sheriff, Warner Brothers slightly owns.
Sure.
Which is fine. I signed that contract with my eyes wide open. I'm perfectly fine with it.
Sure.
And I benefited from Sheriff and from the fantastic editorial support and monetary support and marketing support. So it was worth it. I would make that deal 10 times out of 10.
Okay.
But so Mitch and I were looking for something to do sort of in the gap while we decided, because Sheriff 2 is written. I've already written it, so I just have to put it in a comic book. And we hit upon this Batman story that we really liked, and I pitched it to up the chain, pitch it to Jim Lee, pitch it to Dan, pitch it to Mark Doyle, and it was accepted. And so Mitch and I were going to do this Batman series together. That was something separate from the main Batman series. We were going to do something almost like year one, like something dark and dreary. And I got a call from my editor, the nicest guy. He's like, "Tom, we love that story so much. It has to go in the main book." And we're like, what? Like what? But it's like horribly edgy and dark. He's like, but year one was in the main book. I was like, yeah, but that was in the 80s when we could do anything. And he's like, no, that's where it goes. It goes in the main book. So I was like, okay, but now I don't have a book for Mitch and I to do. And he's like, oh, I didn't think about that. So at Baltimore, Dan took me out and we got really drunk. And I should say I got really drunk. He was going strong. I was out of my mind. And I hope he doesn't listen to this. But and I was trying to play it cool. Like, yeah, I'm totally calm. Let's get another shot. And I was like, I'm going to puke on Dan DiDio in the middle of this meeting. That is going to be my legacy. The end of, but I was like, it was one of those things where you're drinking, you're like, oh man, I got to get to some Gatorade or else I'm never going to function for the next 2 days.
Oh yeah.
But you can't tell your friends you're there. And he's like, what do you want to do? What do you want to do? Just name it. Look, you're never going to be in this position again. But like, when I'm writing, people are buying, which is very nice. So he's like, name a property. Well, what do you want to do? What property? And I was like, I honestly don't care. He's like, no, you must care. I was like, no, I don't. Just you give me something. Because, that's what happened with Vision and with Grayson and with Batman. Like, people gave it to me, and I did what I could with it. I prefer to write that way. I prefer to be sort of put in a box.
Interesting.
And so, there's my phone. It's probably Dan DiDio being like, stop talking about me. Don't tell my drunk stories. I was also very drunk when I was making this decision, so
I don't care.
And I was like, I gotta get out of here. I gotta get to that Gatorade. And so he threw out a few ideas, and I remember Atomic Knights was very seriously considered for a while because I have an Atomic Knights store. I was like, oh, okay, let's do Atomic Knights.
Hilarious.
And but then he threw out something else, and he's because all you want, honestly, like. All I want from a series I would do is just to be left alone.
Sure.
Like it's like, I'm not the first person to say this. I think probably Neil Adams said this when he first like the best thing you can have in comics is for someone to say, here's a series that's about to get canceled. Right.
Right.
Like that's what they did with Vision. Like they're like, here's Vision. Like nobody cares. It's going to get canceled in 6 years. Or Omega Men, same thing. This nobody cares.
Right.
That's the best thing that can happen to your comics. I'm like, give me something like that. Like they gave Neil Adams X-Men, or they gave Ingle or Howard, like a Howard the Duck idea,
or Brubaker doing a Prez book as
Brubaker,
in history.
Yeah, well, Brubaker doing America, like Captain America was in the trash can when he found it, and he brought it back to something brilliant.
Yeah, you're right about that. Actually, I always forget because I'm such a Cap fan and everything. No, you're right. It was. It kind of it was burnt out by the time.
Yeah, and I like the John Reaver, Cassidy stuff. It's beautiful, but like it gotten too edgy and sort of people have forgotten.
Well, and it was late, and it was kind of and also I have a suspicion there was some editorial interference because he did take a chance and had Cap very provocatively talking about 9/11 kind of stuff right at the moment 9/11 and everything. So, and I know Ed Kirkman actually was brought in and did more superhero-y stuff, in between or after Neighbor and everything and Cassidy.
Yeah. I forgot about that.
See? There you go. I know, man.
Brubaker on Captain America is the perfect example where you can just be like, yeah, I'm going to bring back Bucky, and they're like, who cares? Nobody reads Captain America. And like, oh, wow. And then it turns into something. So that's why I asked Dan for some property that was like that. And he handed me one, which I can't talk about, but he's like, here's one that no one has ever done anything good with, and you can do whatever the fuck you want. And I went home and I took a shower. I was like, oh, here's my pitch. And I pitched it to the next day. It's like, yeah, do that. And then I called Mitch. And I was like, hey, Mitch, would you do this? And he's like, yeah. So then we launched a series, and that's going to be our next thing.
Fantastic. When does that debut? This coming year, at least? Can you put it that mildly?
Yeah, no, it comes out in August. I don't want to put it mildly. It's coming out in August. It's gonna be a 12-issue series, cool. Just like Vision and Sheriff and everything.
Yeah.
And Omega Men, like a contained something. And it's gonna be. We were entering this very strange time, and I don't want to talk about Trump because I feel like everybody's going to be pitching like Trump as a big bad guy or Trump as I just feel like that's going to be too much.
In the DC universe, you think that's going to be, people are going to want to use the Trump presidency in their books?
Oh, I think all of media is going to want to use the Trump presidency. I think there's so much energy around that. I think just like it's just going to be played to death, you know. And I don't want to talk about that. I don't want to make like
that kind of statement. Yeah.
That kind of, you know, like
okay.
Let's have the Joker runs for president or something crazy, stupid like that.
I could just see, all the red states. Yeah, you know, Joker. I could see that. Yeah, it's about time. He'll help us. He'll get jobs. He'll give us jobs. That's fantastic. That's
the Loki for President book was the book I was supposed to do, and I got my DC exclusive. And I don't talk politics. In my Twitter feed. I appreciate people who do, and I follow a lot of people who do. I don't just. I feel like my politics are in my books, and you can read them. And I try not to be overt about it because I'm not going to convince anybody with a book. So
well, you know, while you're collecting your thought real fast, I just want to say, I think we don't know what a Trump presidency is going to be, and I actually finally heard some cogent reasoning from a pundit who said, and he did come from the right, but he's like, you know, like let's wait 6 or 8 months and see what it looks like, and then we'll say it. Because yes, I am among those that are like, I don't know what's going on with the cabinet. I don't like a lot of what he says. But let's see him actually in the job for 6 months or 8 months, because that's when the rubber hits the road and you really do know what things are going to be like. Sadly, we learned that with 43, with Bush, with, unfortunately, 9/11. And Obama faced the economic collapse and had to do something about it right away. So I think, you know, there's going to be plenty of things that will really mark what his presidency represents by his actions rather than his Twitter feed. And so that's why I really haven't had much to say beyond that initial, holy shit, what does this mean?
Yeah, I mean, I just try to approach it as an artist, or not artist. That sounds so fucking horrible. I just try to approach it as a guy who tells stories, and when you tell stories, you try to tap into something. And it seems there's like this, I don't know, this paradigm. There's this bizarre mood. It feels like that post 9/11 era when it was like the world didn't make sense, in a good way or a bad way. Like things are happening that you could not predict would happen, and it makes you feel like a combination of anxiety and paranoia, and you don't know which is which. Like, is it true anxiety or is it stupid paranoia? And so I want to write about that. So that's what the series is going to be sort of about. Not about. I have no desire to write some one-to-one metaphor about Trump or to make him, you know, Steve Englehart's snake monster, Nixon.
Yes, the Secret Society or whatever, wasn't it?
The Secret Society.
Dude, now that's fair to say, Tom, because I was a little kid when that was coming out, and I old enough to understand what was happening with Watergate and everything, but still a kid. I mean, I was like still in grade school or whatever, but it was in the news, and it was pretty simple in terms of, well, they broke in and they did this thing, and that seems to be illegal. And then his enemies list came out, and it's like, oh, wow, this guy's weird. This guy's a jerk. And my older cousins and my stepbrother were out demonstrating against Nixon and stuff. So I kind of did see it firsthand in terms of that stuff. So when Englehart's Secret Society thing came out, it was of the time and everything. And I always considered it a classic kind of story. Also, Neil Adams and Denny O'Neil in Green Lantern Green Arrow.
Yeah.
The one issue where it's clearly an Agnew kind of character, it's the bad guy, and there's a little girl who clearly has Nixon's face.
It was I keep my cat asleep. It's Grunwald turned Reagan into a snake monster. That's what happened.
Oh, but yeah. Because I'm thinking of.
But I was thinking of Nixon and Englehart. Yeah.
Yeah. I thought you meant metaphorically.
And the Secret Society.
You turned him into a snake.
I did.
So yeah.
Grunwald literally turned Reagan into a snake monster.
That's right. Well, remember the politics of Dark Knight? Dark Knight Returns?
Yeah, the politics there. And Nixon's the star of Watchmen, so there's some history of this.
Indeed, absolutely. Yeah.
But it's just as I just don't have any interest in doing sort of 1-to-1 ratios. I'd rather talk about, because that's what I feel like Watchmen is all about the Reagan era and all about the 80s that I grew up in, but it doesn't sort of hit it directly, and I appreciate that about it. You get the paranoia of the era without getting sort of 1-to-1.
Sure.
Metaphors.
Well, and really, I think V for Vendetta was even more, and it was more British politics, but God, I mean, that was Thatcher's London that was scaring more and inspired him to do V for Vendetta and everything.
Yeah.
And now look, and isn't it interesting, because there was that paranoia of, we're going to have cameras on the streets and every move is going to be recorded. Here we are. God, that's an evil sounding laugh. That sounds like it should be the end of a night gallery or something like that.
I thought it was perfect for the moment, frankly, Mr. Centuries.
But no, man. Well, that's cool that you're taking that time off, and also because again, I honestly, man, I think it's an amazing story, and knowing your background as little as I do, as much has been declassified. No, I honestly do. It was such a distinct book, and I think really, there are no good guys, there are no bad guys, as the one song says. I forget who sings that terrible song where we just disagree. But it's a complicated world, man, and I think you showed everybody's motivations very clearly in Sheriff.
Yeah, I did, and there's and Sheriff is based on a novel that I never printed. Right, I wrote it as a novel.
I remember you go on, yeah.
And in the novel, there's one mystery that gets solved that's not solved in the comic books. In the comics, the comic books. Let me grandmother for a second. In the funny books, you didn't mention it. And I kind of like that. That feels more like real life to me, that not everything gets solved in the end. I was very hesitant when I wrote it. There was some, at the end I was like, I never sort of tied this thread up of who did this thing. And if you do a close reading, you'll still see that. But then I was like, in real life, like, threads don't get tied. Sometimes, like, mysteries remain out there. So I like that about it. That's what I like best about Sheriff, is that I could do things that were sort of elliptical and didn't quite make sense, because that's the way life is better. Like, especially the dialogue could be that way, where like two characters would talk to each other and it just didn't add up the way a comic dialogue does when you're, sort of trying to do this Mamet Bendis kind of thing. And Sheriff, I could do more realistic, a lot of and I means and that kind of thing.
I understand. No, absolutely. Well, and I remember David Chase saying that about The Sopranos, that people are like, are you ever going to go back to that guy who raped Dr. Melfi? And he's like, no, he gets away, just like how that happens in life. And the same thing with, there was a Russian hitman when Paulie Walnuts and Christopher were stuck with wool with a lot of gas in their 4x4, and they were.
That's right, of course.
And they're like, well, clearly that guy got away, so that's going to come back and bite somebody in the ass. And Chase is like, no, that's not the story I'm telling, and that's not how life happens. And again, that explains that kind of just blackout ending of The Sopranos in general.
Yes, which we stole for Omega Men, which has a blackout ending.
Don't stop.
I would fight,
but no journey sound.
No journey down. That came from the editor. That came from Andy Corey. He's like, what if we go black before Kyle makes the big decision of whether he's going to be a terrorist or not?
Wow.
And I was like, that's. You want us to soprano it? He's like, yeah, let's soprano it. And the reason I told my kids about this ending, my 8-year-old, he was obsessed with it. He's like, that's a great ending, Dad. I was like, no, they're like that. And then Andy and I took a walk around Comic-Con, around the floor of Comic-Con, just talking it through. And I was like, I guess we could do it. It sort of solved a problem for us, because I was like, I wanted him to become a terrorist, and Andy's like, DC will never let you make him a terrorist.
Sure.
And I was like, well, let's cut to black, and the audience can decide whether he becomes a terrorist or not.
That's awesome, man. Well, and it could, maybe this is one of those great subtext untold stories that who knows when Kyle, returned to the DC Rebirth universe and stuff, whether he did or didn't.
Oh man, I had pitched an Omega Men 2 when nobody was buying Omega Men, and It's a good story, and of course it got rejected. I mean, they're like, we love it, but nobody actually buys this shit. I was like, oh yeah, I know, I forgot.
How are the sales going for the 12-issue collection?
They're through the roof. It made New York Times bestsellers list. And go back to its billionth printing, and people are reading the crap out of it. Yeah, so now DC's like, hey Tom, do you want to do an Omega Men 2? And I'm like, I already pitched it. You have it in your computers.
Well, maybe it'll get a second consideration now.
Yeah, I mean, I could do it if I wanted to. I mean, the door's open.
Okay.
I just have to see if I can find the time where Barnaby wants. I mean, I wouldn't do it without Barnaby, my artist on that. Barnaby began to see if Barnaby wants to do it.
Does the double shipping make it hard to do other things now that your plate is clean and doesn't have Vision and Sheriff immediately, and you've got like you said, you've got the new series coming up in August? But yeah, does it make it harder to maybe pursue some of this stuff, because clearly the critics and the people have responded to your work, and I would think now is a good time to maybe stretch and maybe do an image book on the side or something like that. Who knows?
Yeah, I'm not ready for Image yet. I don't know.
How come?
I just
you feel like you're still learning and kind of.
Yeah, I want my Image thing when it launches to be just the best thing I can do, and I'm not there yet, because I want it to be worth people spending money on it, and I have to find the exact right artist. I could do Image right now if I wanted to. They'd take me, and I think they'd take me. Who knows? But I haven't found the right idea yet, I'm not there yet. I'm not good enough yet.
Okay.
Because an Image book has to be better. It has to be as good as Saga, right? It has to be so good that even though you don't know those characters, even though they're not a world you care about, you keep coming back month after month. And I don't know if I'm not capable of doing that right now. Maybe I will be someday. It's hard. That's a hard thing to do.
No, I understand, and I do think that the success stories are because, in the case of Saga, Brian obviously had Vaughn had several amazingly successful runs, not just Y, but the Lions of Baghdad,
of course.
And, Ex Machina with Tony Daniel, or not Tony, rather, shame on me, Tony
Harris.
Tony Harris, exactly. Oh, Tony, I'm so sorry if you're listening. I apologize. I love Tony Harris. He's honestly, I'm always happy to see him, and he's one of my truly favorite artists and everything. But yeah, I mean, that's the thing. He had those years that he put in. That's we've talked about this before, that this is the interesting time in comics where you make your bones at DC and Marvel, you establish your audience, and then are able to, if you want, keep a foot in those big two companies, but also do your own thing. And as successful as of 2016 has been for you, no, I think I think you've got a handle on where you are, and also maybe make sure that you really do have that audience that's willing to jump with you, because who knows? I mean, I think Image is still a crapshoot because there's so much good stuff out there from everybody.
Yeah, I think that's true.
God, I mean, I can't read everything, and I'm incapable. It's one of the reasons why I still haven't read Omega Men, and I do want to, and
How dare you, John?
I know, man. I know.
No, don't. We're gonna come up. Oh, dude, I write too many comic books. Don't read all my comic books.
Hey, man. Everyone knows there's a reason why Brian Bendis comes on the show as much as he does. I don't read everything he does. It's impossible. It's too expensive. And, although now I have Marvel Unlimited, so now I can be 6 months behind and read a lot of what he does. But truly, I mean, and that goes for a lot of the men and women whose work I really do love. Or it's like, okay, great, I'm talking to Kelly Sue. Let me catch up on Pretty Deadly. Let me catch up on Bitch Planet. I haven't been reading it monthly. Things like that happen. That's just the way it is. And again, it's a good problem to have as a reader. It makes for a very competitive market, and it makes it that much tougher to choose whether this is the right time to put out an Image book.
Well, you can only write what inspires you. And right now what inspires me is superheroes that have been worked on by dozens of creators. I,
cool.
I don't know why that appeals to my brain at this moment, but just I like that idea of going back to the history and looking at what they've done and sort of sparking off that rather than creating my own. I mean, I started out writing a novel where I sort of created my own, he's Captain America version and Batman version, and I sort of did that, and I like this better. I like working with these. I like working with the actual Batman and the actual Superman. I mean, I'm sure I'll be jaded and tell you something different 5 years from now, but for now, to me, it's very satisfying.
I think that's awesome, man. And honestly, and a lot of our previous conversations have been kind of clouded with the dissatisfaction I've had with DC and just overall. But I can honestly say that I think Rebirth is really fulfilling what we had hoped it would be. And I do think that the right creators are on the right books. And I do think that the majority of books are great. And I think a lot of veterans that are very capable of excellent work. I don't know if it's, this is the right character at the right time, or editorial has kind of eased back and let these people kind of tell their stories. I kind of think it's that latter possible argument, or that they're in agreement with the directions these guys are going on because they had the meetings with Jeff Johns, as I know you did, and said, this is what I want to do. And it's like, okay, do it. And it's like, all right, fine. Then I'm going in this direction. But no, I think DC Rebirth is really succeeding. I mean, Superman... Man, I think both Pete Tomasi and Dan Jurgens, they're doing an exceptional job with the character. I think it's fantastic, and I
couldn't agree more.
Yeah, and I think Gene Yang, I never know how to say Gene's last name.
Just say genius.
Yeah, but there you go. Literally, Genius Award Gene.
Genius Award Gene.
Grant, Genius Grant Gene. No, I think New Superman is a great idea, and it's a much more interesting book. I didn't care for his run on regular Superman, I'll say it, but I do like this new character and the ideas. I always like the Great 10 coming out from China, and
I did like them too.
And yeah, I think and I loved when Rucka would play with the rest of the world in Checkmate. Wasn't it Checkmate?
Yeah, of course.
Right.
Yeah,
I wanted to make sure. Yeah, no,
with Amanda Waller in it.
Yes, and just again a look at the world beyond what's happening in the United States in the DC universe and stuff. And I just think I think there's a lot of really good books. I think Flash is kicking ass. I think Green Arrow is doing great. Those are the main. I think the Benson sisters are doing great with the Birds of Prey.
Yeah, they are. That's amazing.
Yeah.
I read a lot more DC now than I ever have before. I read all those books. I love what James is doing on Detective. I think that's such a great book.
Absolutely.
I love what Scott's doing on All-Star. I think Batman is such a great place right now. Just like all cylinders perfect. And Williamson's Flash. I like Venditti's Green Lantern. I think just the line is really working.
Yeah.
I think Tomasi has done something magical with Superman. I think it's going to be remembered for a long time to come.
Yeah, man. I mean,
he's the right person at the right time.
I really think outside of you and Seeley playing with Dick Grayson, I think Pete was one of those guys that really got Nightwing right.
Oh yeah, I totally agree. Don Kramer stuff.
Yeah, exactly. And I really think I saw Pete in New York, and I've said to Dan both on this show and through emails and stuff how much I love what he's doing with action and stuff, Jurgens. That's the thing, man. I'm like Jurgens knows Superman, and it's like, and now finally he gets to work with a version of Superman that makes sense.
Of course.
And now it's like, of course he knows this Superman, so he's kicking ass. And yeah, Pete's a breath of fresh air on Superman. But again,
and we should also Pat Gleason co-writes with him and does the art. So
Pat Gleason. You're right, and I love Pat's work as well. You're 100% right. He really loves the character too.
Yeah, that's the best guy. He's the only guy in comics that has more kids than me, so we bond over.
That's awesome. That's great. So what else is on your mind, man? Good Christmas? Everything went okay?
I did. I had a very good Christmas. My kids got great toys. They all wanted superhero stuff, so my kids are like totally nerded out now.
Fantastic.
Except my daughter plays with superheroes like she plays kind of house with superheroes.
Oh, that's cute. That's adorable.
So she's 6, and she wanted like dollhouse toys because I buy Justice League Unlimited. If you watch my Twitter feed, I'm constantly twittering about this, but my daughter's obsessed with Justice League Unlimited toys. These little sort of like If you remember the old Star Wars toys, they're that size.
Sure.
And I probably have like 300 scattered through my house. And every room has, and they're so wonderful because they did all these deep cuts. So like, you'll just be like, oh, like, I'll go to the bathroom late at night and I'll step, Hawk, what are you doing here? Where's Dove?
Is there a Vigilante Justice League Unlimited figure?
I don't have a Vigilante, but I have there's the Flaming Skull and Gentleman Ghost I have. And, I mean, there's some good deep cuts. There's like two Doomsdays. And I've been rewatching that cartoon. I cannot believe how good that cartoon is.
Could not agree more, obviously, and I know millions agree with us. So yeah, have you watched Justice League Action yet?
I heard you. I was just listening to you and Paul Dini talk about it. I worship Paul Dini as a storyteller.
Well, and I'm pleased to say, since that interview, I did finally watch the first 4 that they showed on Cartoon Network, because, like I said, I DVR'd it, and I was really happy. I think it's great, and I'm really excited with all the character hints that Paul laid out for us and everything on that word balloon.
I love it. I love that it's back. And it's written so well, and it's perfect, and it's great that we're having new episodes. But it does make me a little bit sad, because the animation is not as good as the old one. You can just tell, like, the budget's not there. It's not their fault. The writing is perfect, but the budget's not there for it. And it makes me go back to the old, because the old series are free on Netflix, or not free, which
right.
And you can get Superman and Batman both on Amazon Prime if you have that. So
I have that as well. I agree.
My kids have been watching it nonstop, and that's I watch like 2 to 3 episodes a day. Not that I would ever let my kids watch TV, but I do constantly. And I can't believe how good they are. They boggle my mind. I was like, these are the best Justice League stories that have been ever told, and they're told in cartoons. That's amazing.
Well, that's why the writing for Justice League Action is so good, and I meant what I said when I was talking to Dini about how, again, these guys have been doing this for over 25 years and have had the time to evolve and, kind of figure out how to really write these things at I think, this amazing level. And I think the animated movies, for the most part, the writing has held up, and the long form. Yeah. And I really, God, I loved Return of the Caped Crusaders. I thought I'm looking forward to Justice League Dark. I'm very psyched for that, and it was fun talking to Jay Oliva and James Tucker. I'm always happy to have back on and stuff, and it just seems like the caretakers really, they get it. I really want to talk to Alan Burnett, because God, he's been there from day one, and I've had the moment to like introduce myself and just tell him how much I love his work and everything, but I really want to get him on Word Balloon. I really hope that happens.
You let me know, because I want to steal whatever, man. I mean, it's impossible to steal from Dwayne McDuffie anymore. That's the tragedy of it all, right?
Yeah.
But I want to steal whatever, because I watch them, like, how did they do, like, I watch them from a storytelling point of view where you're 4 minutes into the story, and I was like, if this was comic book issues, this is issue 2 already. And I was like, how did they do so much with so little? And my kids know everything that's going on. They understand exactly where they started and exactly where, and it's not over expositional. It's all action oriented. I was like, I don't know how there's a magic to it. And I love that concept, especially Justice League Unlimited, of all the superheroes on the satellite sort of having one big club. That's such a great concept. I'm like, why did we abandon that? That should be the DCU, where you can like go up in a superhero tower and you're walking around, and there's the Atom is talking to Blue Beetle, is having lunch with Wildcat. I'm like, well, that's brilliant. Like, that's the DCU. That's what I love.
And that's funny, because I was about to say Kelly Sue DeConnick was doing that with her Avengers Assemble book.
Yeah.
And I think it was just bad timing, because a lot of what you see, those fun moments in the Avenger movies, like when they're at the bar hanging out and everyone's trying to lift Thor's hammer and stuff, those are fun. And that's why I love what your daughter is doing with the dollhouse and stuff, because that's where character comes alive, and you can really have fun, interesting moments with the characters. That's why the Bwahaha era was so fun, because a lot of it really was just downtime of the Super Buddies, as Booster and Beetle called them, just hanging out and everything, just and having really funny conversations and interesting conversations. And that's where the differences in characterization can really come out.
Yeah, dude, I told you, That reminds me of one of my favorite scenes in comic, which is like the last scene of Kingdom Come in the restaurant with Mark Waid, Alex Ross, and I love that scene so much. And there's like so much characterization of just the Batman, Superman, and Wonder Woman sitting in a deli having lunch, and it's thrilling. I was like, and I bring that up because I do a tribute to that in Batman 16,
cool,
where you're going to see Batman in a superhero themed restaurant, sitting around with all the Robins having a conversation, and it was my way of. When Wade reached out to me about Viv earlier in the conversation, I reached out to him about this. I said, "You mind if I steal this scene from you?" And he's like, "Yeah, go ahead."
That's great.
And I stole a line, like, so just so people knew, like, I realized that I'm stealing from Mark Waid. Here's a direct line. But yeah, I totally agree with you. It's like those small moments that turn things cool.
Well, and in my head, like, my favorite scene from that or my favorite moment from that scene is when Batman's talking to Superman. He says, "Oh, I caught Luthor downstairs in the Batcave trying to hack the Bat computer." And he's like, he says hello. And Superman's, "Really?" Yeah. Batman's like, "No." It just pulls the rug out from under him or takes the football away like Lucy. It's like, of course he didn't say hello. It's Luthor, dumbass. What are you, crazy? Again, idiot. You think everyone's good and has a chance of redeeming themselves. No, it's fucking Luthor, dumbass.
Yeah, it's so perfect. It's such a perfect scene.
And it could just even be a quiet no. A good Kevin Conroy kind of no. But in my mind, it was a little more snide and a little more, I guess, oh God, now I'm blanking, from Friends. And now he's on that horrible Odd Couple show.
Oh,
Matthew.
Yeah.
Matthew Perry. No.
That's right.
So, yeah, no, I love that. That is a great scene. I was very fortunate this year to have Wade and Alex.
I did. And that's when I learned that it wasn't part of the original series from your interview.
Yes.
That it was added for the trade. That was amazing. It was
added for the trade.
Man, it's the perfect capper to that series. It wouldn't work.
Oh, God, yeah. Have you heard the audio dramatization of Kingdom Come?
I have not. Is that a thing? Should I be in?
It was a thing, and I bought it originally on cassette, and I'm sure if you hunt around, you can find it. They did. I'm reasonably certain, because I remember asking Chuck Dixon about this. I think it was BBC Radio that originally produced these things, but they were audiobooks. They did Kingdom Come. They did Nightfall, which was really good. Crazy good Nightfall adaptation. And I'm trying to think of what
Nightfall's so long. I had to reread it because I was doing Bane. It's so long.
It was 2 cassettes. It was like it's almost 3 hours long. And I think it was made episodically for BBC Radio. And they did the Death of Superman with the reign of the Superman afterwards with Doomsday and everything. And they're all fantastic. Seriously, music is great, and they've got interesting voice actors. And Kingdom Come was, I think, incredibly well done. Because there's another company that has been doing adaptations of big event comics, and it's good. The only thing that I don't like about it is they really spend a lot of time on a hero appeared. She was wearing yellow, green tights or whatever. Oh, it's Phantom Lady. Okay. And you get a 30-second description of the hero before they enter the scene. And it really takes away from the storytelling, where everything else was pretty much, Nightfall, right from, Bane breaking Batman's back to Azrael becoming Batman, and Batman tearing Azrael apart again to John Paul Valley.
Wow.
It's great. No, it's a very well made, and Film Freak, all the interesting momentary Batman villains that make a quick cameo in this audio version. I was going to say radio. Maybe
Film Freak is in Batman 13.
Oh, fantastic! I didn't even notice. It must be 14.
14. I can't get
in the Catwoman thing.
Catwoman thing. Oh my God!
Okay,
yeah, 14.
Film Freak, fantastic.
Film Freak,
well, as well as he should be, because clearly we're both film freaks. So
damn right, he should be.
That's it. And I was going to mention, as you were saying, Amazon Prime, things to look for on Amazon Prime if you haven't already seen them. Did you watch the Steve McQueen Le Mans documentary?
No.
amazing, and it's on Amazon Prime.
See, this is why I come to this podcast. I need some recommendations.
Well, I'm hoping for some recommendations in kind, but also The Man Who Saved Ben-Hur is a really interesting little movie about this guy in his 80s who was a production assistant on the 50s shoot of Ben-Hur with Charlton Heston, and about his career in Hollywood. And he was a crew guy. And the reason why he made it to Ben-Hur was he was of Italian descent and spoke Italian, so he could help the director, translate and stuff to the Italian crew and everything. But became friends with all the stars, and it's a great Hollywood story. So those two are really good. Those are the two that I've seen recently. I noticed that the oh God, now I'm blanking. What's his name? The guy who directed The Untouchables, Brian De Palma.
Yeah, Brian De Palma. I know there's a new documentary that's by Noah Baumbach, made a documentary about it.
Right, and it's now on Amazon Prime. I remember when it came out last summer, or earlier this year even maybe, and Bendis bought it on iTunes. He's like, you got to see it. And I'm like, all right, I'll get to it. And of course I didn't. Now I don't have to buy it because it's free on with Amazon Prime.
Did you see the Shatner TNG documentary?
Yes, Chaos on the Bridge.
That was amazing.
It's my favorite recommendation to Star Trek fans who haven't seen it. And Marty Pascal, I was just talking to him, and he's like, my God, I have no idea. And he knew people, like, he knows a lot of the writers and stuff, and it was really fun, like, getting his reaction to it and everything. But yeah, oh my God, that's amazing. I mean, I knew, like, they'd say Gene Roddenberry was in ill health, but I didn't realize how bad, and I also didn't realize that it was because, he was boozing up and drugging up a lot in the 70s. And I can appreciate that because every time he'd try and do a new pilot, I liked it. I remember when all that stuff was coming on TV, and were kind of backdoor pilot TV movies and stuff, but nothing would ever happen with them. All those movies and everything.
Yeah, it was eye-opening in terms of Roddenberry and how his contribution was. And how much improvisation was behind these decisions that I thought were like epic while I was watching it.
Sure.
Like, oh, we're going to replace the Doctor with another Doctor. I was like, oh, there must be a huge backstory behind it. It's just like some random thought that went through somebody's head.
Well, yeah, she was just cranky and was kind of difficult. And it's like, all right, the hell with her. Hey, Diana Muldaur has a history with Star Trek. Let's put her on. And nobody liked it. The poor lady, Dr. Pulaski. Why are you such a pointed person?
Oh yeah, it was very much. It reminded me of writing for comic books. This sort of idea of like all the weird politics that goes behind it, and all people see is this like screen in front. And you think of that first episode and how it did not make any sense, and you kind of just tried to keep putting the puzzle pieces. You're like, oh, someone must know that this makes sense. And like they didn't think it made sense when they put it out.
Yeah, absolutely. Encounter at Farport. You're 100% right.
It felt like two things have been slammed together that shouldn't be, and you're like, wow, that's a real interesting contrast they're making. You're like, oh no, it's not a contrast. They just compromised and put on what they had.
Yep. Or Gene Roddenberry basically insinuating himself so he could get the co-writing credit. They gave it to D.C. Fontana to write, who an incredible Star Trek writer. Even great Star Trek novels and everything.
Yeah.
Let Dean crap on it for a little bit. Oh man. No, did you want or have you read the 50-Year Mission, the 2 volumes of?
No, it's on my list. I have to get it.
If you like Chaos on the Bridge, I strongly recommend to the listeners as well. And I know I've talked about it in other episodes. Completely eye-opening from the original series through, pretty much through the JJ movies. And there's a little hint of what's coming with Discovery. And clearly, that is a production in chaos right now, it seems.
Yeah, it seems that way, yeah.
You can't deny it, my God. I mean, it's, we're about 5 months away from what's supposed to be the premiere. Thank God they finally started, naming some leads and stuff like that. I hope it's still on time. I hope they don't kick it down the road again. But then again, I want it to be good, so if they do, it won't surprise me. I don't know.
Trek is rarely good in the first season. It's like usually like season 4. It's like great, so not a shocker that it's starting that way.
You're right, and also it's again because I'm sure in the case of Trek, because I do know that some streaming shows have survived beyond their first season because it is hard to kind of get it right. in the first couple episodes that you write. So the likelihood is that even if it sucks, I imagine they'll still make a second season of Star Trek Discovery. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, it is a different television world now where, no, you better get it right. If you really want it to be good, you better get it right the first time. And Man in the High Castle certainly, I think, has accomplished that. I'm a huge fan of that show.
Yeah, I like that. I mean, I was obsessed with that book when I was in high school. It's cool to see it on the screen. Yeah. And I was obsessed with, I read a Star Trek, I read both of Shatner's memoirs, I remember, in high school. And so, like, I couldn't get enough of them. So to go back to that world, yeah, I'll have to read those books.
Yeah, man, they're great. No, and you're right. There's a little bit of that plenty of Shatner's point of view of that stuff. But that's the thing, and that was just the films and his TV memories and film memories and stuff. We'll now add on everything that happened in Voyager and Deep Space Nine. You know, like you said, even the Klingon War interrupting the Dominion War. And it's like, yeah, believe me, we weren't crazy about it either, but it kind of came above from Paramount going, yeah, we don't know these aliens. How about bringing the Klingons back? And it's like, all right, well, you're paying for this. If that's what you want, that's what we're going to have to do. You know, it just weird stuff like that. Yeah, no. And, oh, man, Voyager's a mess and Enterprise is a mess. It's, and just this resistance to hire people to write this shit that like Star Trek, that grew up as Star Trek fans. They made fun of Ron Moore being a Star Trek fan. And it's like, don't you want people that know this shit to write this shit? Apparently not. Well, and again, I think that explains all the misfires of comic book movies for so many decades before what we've got today, where you've actually got people who know this shit that are writing it.
I remember when I was a kid, I got a Star Trek magazine, and it had Harlan Ellison telling the true story of City on the Edge of Forever.
Cool. I've read the book. Go on.
And yeah, his book. And he told the whole story. At the very end of the story, he's like, "That's not what actually happened, but what happened, I can't talk about." I was like, "What?"
Wow. Oh, that's crazy.
And it sticks in my head, and like it's like this mystery. And then flash forward to Comic-Con this year. I'm having drinks with J.K. Woodward, who's a brilliant artist.
Yes, big fan.
Works for IDW and is a huge Trek fan and does all their Trek stuff. And he did the comic book adaptation where they sort of had Harlan's original script.
Yes.
Which is great if you haven't picked it up. It's beautiful.
Story. Great Star Trek story. Yes, sir.
And I'm like, JK, do you remember, like 20 years ago, this magazine I read, he told the story about what happened. And then at the very end, he said, that's not what actually happened, but I can't talk about it. And in my head, I'm imagining them just tripped out on the deepest drugs they possibly could and, going out to assassinate JFK and then coming back. It's like, what was it that they couldn't talk about in this article? And he looks at me, he's like, Harlan told me the truth, but I can't tell you. It's like, no!
Wow.
Oh, JK.
Wow,
no.
Man. Oh, I assumed that finally when Harlan wrote his book that was the real story. But I guess now that you say that was about 20 years ago when he came out with that book.
Oh, see, maybe
about 15 years ago. White Wolf Publishing, I know, had it, but yeah, he did. I mean, he at least in that talked a lot about the politics and everything. Interesting. No, you get a sense of that again from this 50-year mission book, because Harlan wasn't the only guy who had stories rewritten on them. And I mean, Theodore Sturgeon and everything. I mean, like the cream of the crop of sci-fi writers that wrote for Star Trek in the original series and everything. Not to mention the good TV writers that they got for Next Generation and beyond.
That's what it means. I mean, I'm dipping into the Hollywood stuff now. I'm doing scripts and dealing with all these Hollywood people, and the temptation is the money, right? There's so much money. But then the other side of it is the vision you have in your head will not be executed. You just know it. Like when you go to them with a pitch and the translation of that into something on screen, it's not going to be what you want it to be.
Sure.
And that's what makes comic books great, is that there's just so few people between the creator and the audience. And that's why I love working in the medium. That's why television, even though it's calling, it's not as tempting for me. Because, maybe the audience is a 1% of the size, but you get 100% more control over your product. So I feel for all those TV writers. What the frustration must be.
Sure. No, I hear you, man. That's well. Again, this is I think the evolving adaptations of TV and film from comics and stuff. I mean, I wonder. I haven't had the chance to really talk to Kirkman lately. 8 years into Walking Dead, to really wonder. I mean, it seems like he's satisfied and defends.
Well, that's a special case.
Well, and exactly, and defends choices that he makes that people shriek about. That's the other interesting thing, man. Think about that. I mean, the comic book audience is certainly happy to tell you whether they like or dislike what you do. Man, I mean, all the shit that Walking Dead took this year. Too violent, so violent. It's like, well, yeah, it is violent. It's a rough world, man. He wants to push your buttons. He wants to frustrate you.
Like I killed Kyle Rayner once. I had him strapped to a chair, and I had a guy
yes.
take a knife and cut his throat, and he bled out. And I got like 3 tweets about it. And people were like, "Oh, you killed him!" And it was the most disappointing thing ever, because I was like, I just did something I thought was horrible, violent, and reckless to a character. And nobody cared.
Yeah, but now the Catwoman stuff, you're certainly, apparently.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying is that you have to take that as like, okay, your audience is invested, like when the Red Wedding happened and people screamed about it, that's because they believed in it,
Yes.
People didn't. When I killed Kyle Rayner, nobody believed in that. Nobody believed in that death. Nobody believed in that character. Nobody believed it mattered. So it didn't hit anyone on that gut level. So you have to take some of that with stride and pride, and be like, okay, if you're into the story this much, you're having this passionate reaction, then the job's getting done.
The only thing that I find a little disappointing is sometimes the online critics that are abandoning shows because of a creative choice. And, well, that's too far, and I'm not going to watch it anymore. And it's like, okay, you're a critic, and that whatever. I don't think they're coming for Jimmy's soapbox. I think they're coming for you because you've got a hopefully you're going to come to it with a neutral eye. I don't know. I found that very self-serving from the critic standpoint, and be like, well, guess what? Millions of people aren't making the choice you're making, but good luck to you. And I'm sure they'll find other people to read about the critiques of the show as they continue to watch it, even though you're not going to.
I have every sympathy for a critic, because everyone has an opinion on everything. Now they can publish their opinions immediately. Well, but how hard it must be to get your opinion to matter and to be interesting.
But that's the thing. Are you a critic, or are you a fanboy or fangirl with a blog? That's the question that you have to answer for yourself. And if you choose to be a fanboy or fangirl with a blog, that's fine. But then I'm not taking you seriously as a critic. How about that?
I think you're a hard man, John Centris. You're a hard man. Find some compassion.
Yeah. No, it's a cold
People got to get through their shit.
It's a cold world. Should we end on the cold note like that? I'm trying to think of any other Amazon Prime things. There's a movie, I can't remember what it's called now. I think it's called Out of Print. Yes. And I started watching that. It's about the New Beverly cinema in L.A., and it's about revival theaters.
I'll check. I grew up in L.A. and I grew up going to New Beverly.
Oh, there you go. You'll love it.
Going to see.
Yeah, I saw half of it, and then I fell asleep just because it was late at night. But
my high school buddy ran it for a while, Brett Berg.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Cool. I don't know. He might be in the movie. I'm not sure.
Maybe I'll check it out. Did you see there was an old Hollywood show they premiered on Amazon Prime, and it was terrible.
Which one?
It was a retelling of the Scott Fitzgerald's The Last Tycoon. That's what it was.
Oh no, I haven't watched that. Is it a full series, a full season, or is it just?
They piloted it out, but I think they picked it up. I don't know. What do I know about anything? But I was like, oh man,
not good.
No, it was like the most romantic version of Hollywood you've ever seen. Very fake and Tinseltowny, and that's not.
Yeah, because I want to see the one about women working at the news magazine, and it's based on Nora Ephron, and I forget who else.
Yeah,
that looks really good. I saw the trailer for that. I haven't been able.
And Gail Norton Holmes, who's my current representative here in DC.
Oh, no kidding.
Who's in that movie as like a young lawyer, which is cool.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
No, I'm really curious about that. I loved, and I keep telling people now to watch it. I just on the Oh Yeah podcast I do with Art Baltazar and Franco was talking about it. The Jean Claude Van Damme pilot episode. Jean Claude.
Really? Jean-Claude Van Damme?
I think
I'll have to check that out.
it's like honestly a very good modern day Get Smart. I mean, Van Damme has reached his Adam West portion of his career and is embracing it fully. And I honestly thought it was really, really funny. And it's only 20 minutes long. And I encourage you, if you have any, if you like JCVD the movie, it's in that vein, only a little more silly, but in a very good way. And I think he pulls it off. I think it was very funny.
All right, I'll check it out. I'll have to go.
Well, if you're not a fan, but
No. I don't have as much time as I used to, and I tend to watch like. It's my son's fault. It's the little one's fault because now he wants to eat lunch with me. This is the problem working at home when you've got a 2-year-old.
Yeah, there's a little too much violence and nudity for the kid.
There's a little too much violence and nudity.
But it's only 20 minutes long. So, because that's my dilemma with trying to see stuff sometimes too is I don't have 2 hours or 2 hours plus. And certainly with some of the extended cut movies of like Batman, Superman, Dawn of Justice and stuff, it's like, which I did finally see the full cut months ago. But yeah, I mean, it's like I don't have 3 hours to invest in a movie. So I kind of do lean on TV episodes that are like 40 minutes long or whatever.
So then let me recommend old movies if we're getting to the boring portion of the thing. But actually, I just rewatched The Shop Around the Corner, which classic. Is the famous. Yeah, it's classic as a romantic movie between these Jimmy Stewart, Margaret Sullivan, and the You Got Mail is a remake of it.
Right? Yeah. Yes. Tom Hanks. What's her face movie?
Yeah, and it's a Lubitsch film. But what really hit me this time in watching it was like how much of like a war movie or pre-Holocaust movie it is.
Yes.
Because it takes place in Hungary, and it's like the romance is maybe 20% of the movie. The most of the movie is about like these people trying to survive in this shop, and if they get fired, they're going to go on the street and starve.
Yeah.
And the stakes are so high. And it's just like it's like a kind of a low run Macy's, but the stakes are just so high in that form that this constant fear of what would happen if they got fired that they could never sort of survive without, and it's like and I mean there's just such a deeper message there, and you think that this is Hungary and one of the main characters is a Jew and this is pre-war and like this guy's gonna die in 5 years, like these people are gonna betray. I mean, it's just there's an amazing undercurrent of the war that's coming and the sort of the insanity that I forgot how dark that movie is and it has those undertones to it.
You know what? A Christmas movie that I noticed, and I mean I've mentioned this a couple years ago, but I really do love it now. Holiday Affair with Robert Mitchum and Janet Leigh. And Janet Leigh is a war widow.
Ooh,
it's from the late 40s, and she's got like a 12-year-old kid. And Mitchum is this guy who was a salesman at a department store, gets fired, so is kind of without work. And Wendell Corey plays this very stable guy that is dating Janet Leigh and really wants her to get married and is like, look, I'll give you stability and, the kid will have a father. And the kid just doesn't like Wendell Corey, that much. And she's, he'll learn to love him and everything. And then Robert Mitchum just kind of walks in. And what I love about it is Mitchum plays his role as if he was in a scene at Out of the Past, walked down a corridor and took a wrong left turn in a holiday movie. Because noir tough guy Mitchum in this very light drama with a little bit of comedy in it and stuff, and he's just hey Janet, I think you're a swell girl and I think Tom is a great guy, but I think you ought to marry me. And it's just that kind of delivery to his character and stuff, and he's got no job and everything, but he's connecting with the kid and she kind of likes him, and it's this very sweet, weirdly funny, interesting Christmas movie called Holiday Affair. It's like from 47 or 49. And I love it because, like I said, it's just like, what the hell is Robert Mitchum doing in a Christmas movie? And it kills. I love it. So go on, give me more old movies.
More old school go holiday. I rewatched. I'm going to tell you about like these light movies that I'm rediscovering are horribly dark. Meet Me in St. Louis. I rewatched this with my daughter.
And it is dark.
And it is, that is a crazy dark movie. And my daughter could not get it. My daughter, who's 6 years old, loves old movies. She loves classic films.
That's the movie that does clank, clank, clank with the trolley.
Yes, that's most famous for that. And where Vincent Minnelli met Judy Garland, and that became the whole thing. And it has the saddest Christmas song ever at the end of it. But yeah, I mean, it's a tale. It's supposed to be, it's a gentle tale about a family that's very content to live in St. Louis, and the dad gets a job in New York, and they're sad because they have to leave, and at the end they find out they don't have to leave and they're happy. That's the story my daughter got out of it. But then there's like this other like undercurrent of like of like this world they're living in is clearly disappearing, and it's driving them insane, and like their inability to move on from being stuck in this world is a little crazy. And there's like this really dark Halloween scene where they're all dressed up as monsters and they're telling they hate each other, and it has a very weird undercurrent. And critics have said this who aren't me, but the end of the movie could be used as a horrible, unhappy ending where the father's like, okay, I'm going to quit my job and we're going to all stay in St. Louis. They have no other way to make income. They're just going to rot in this place. And she's 16 and she's engaged to this guy who she barely knows, who lives next door. It's like they're heading into the hell of the future. They don't even know it.
That's awesome. You're killing me.
So yeah, Meet Me in St. Louis, I thought was had a very dark tone to it.
Shockingly dark.
Shockingly. I watched. I've been rewatching because I read the Hitchcock. That was a biography. So Dial M for Murder was the one that shocked me as being very good.
You know, that's interesting because I only enjoyed it the one time I saw it in 3D.
I had no idea it was in 3D until after I watched it. I had no idea it was a 3D movie until after I watched it. I was really into the mystery. I was like, what? How are they going to do? How are they going to get out of this? How are they going to? I was thrilling with it, and it all takes place in one room. But I was obsessed.
Wow, I forgot about that. It's been a long time since I've seen it because the first time I saw it, it was in the 80s. How you doing, everybody? And I was, a teenager.
I was there,
and it was just like, yeah, it's okay. But then they did at a revival house. They showed it in 3D, and suddenly I had a new appreciation for it because, yeah, a lot of what they do. I mean, he used 3D in a very smart way. It's very subtle, and that's why it doesn't surprise me that a lot of people don't know that it was originally a 3D movie. It's not like Dr. Tongue on SCTV leaning into the camera and leaning back, or some of those bad Three Stooges ones where you get a flamethrower in the face or a pie in the face and stuff like that. No, it was interesting. I love Hitchcock, and I want to watch the episodes of the Alfred Hitchcock Hour that he directed. Because
me too.
Because I'm really interested in that, because he really did do that as a kind of an experiment with himself to see how he could handle that kind of short schedule and the limitations of television versus film. And I bet that was I bet they're pretty amazing, just because he's a terrible person but a great genius. I mean, sometimes you got to separate the art from the person.
Yeah, I mean, he's not he didn't kill anyone, or at least he didn't admit to killing anyone.
No, but, I mean, he did kind of, he certainly was kind of creepy with a lot of his leading ladies, in fact.
Yeah, he was really bad to and he really wanted them to be his puppets, and as soon as they said they weren't his puppets, then he, rejected them and tried to kill their career, went out of his way to kill their career.
Yeah, the Tippi Hedren thing is really icky and ugly. It seems like... oh, God, now I'm blanking. Damn it. Isabella Rossellini's mother, the great actress who was in Casablanca.
Yes. Well, I'm blanking too, but yes.
Christ. Shame on us.
We're too old. We're old men. Yeah, that's our problem.
Oh, and she's, God. Come on, John. Tom, we can think of this name. I'll look online. All right,
we'll do it. All right.
I'm going to look it up because, and hope, Ingrid Bergman, thank God I thought of it before I actually had it.
Ingrid Bergman.
But yeah, Ingrid Bergman seemed to be able to handle it well.
Ingrid Bergman and so could Grace Kelly, and they're the only two.
Yeah, you're probably right. Yeah, you're really probably right.
And he ended up hating. I'm sorry, I just read his biography, so I know all this shit. But he ended up hating Ingrid Bergman, telling everyone she was stupid because she had a career outside of him, and Grace Kelly became a princess outside of him, and
right. Yeah, she left the business. Yeah, to marry marrying into royalty and becoming
Grace Kelly, who slept with Bing Crosby. So it's the world is a flat circle.
Hey, how's it going? Listen, while we're making high society, why don't we get together and knock boots together? I always love doing I always say it's like Bing's running down the stairs. You start off really high and then you get really low. We did our Bing Crosby riff, of course, on the last episode, and we talked about that American Experience, which they reran in the last week or so.
I own it.
Chicago television. I was happy to watch it.
I have a son named Crosby. That's it.
Attaboy. I'm trying to think of other... Man, I didn't know until I read the John Wayne stuff. John Wayne and Marlene Dietrich.
Yeah, I knew that.
I didn't know about that. And it's interesting, the did they or didn't they stuff with him and Maureen O'Hara. Because depending on who you spoke to, it was like, of course they did, and others like, no, of course they didn't. They just really did, were great friends, and she got him and understood him and really respected him, but she was a good Catholic girl, and of course she didn't do it.
That's probably more right. Or not.
I kind of think so. Just because of the way she was. That was a pleasure. Reggie Hudlin got to direct her stuff when she got the special Oscar a year or two ago before she passed away last year. And I talked to him about shooting and getting to interview Maureen O'Hara and how cool that was.
Oh, yeah, she was in.
Oh, Forrest.
Yeah.
McClintock, great John Wayne, Maureen O'Hara movie.
Very much, except she gets spanked a few too many times in that movie.
Well, that's true, and it is. I mean, it's it's the Western version of Taming of the Shrew.
That's right.
Which might be a explanation of why. Yeah, and shame on me because I know a lot of times I'll say, "Oh, that's a great movie," and it's like, yeah, you watch it, and it could be incredibly misogynistic. And I mean, How to Murder Your Wife, the Jack Lemmon movie where he's the cartoonist. I think it's a crazy movie, and it's very silly. It is so politically incorrect for the times now. The way that women are treated in the film and depicted, it really is like a movie of its time, and it's like, all right, thank God that time's over. But there are certain movies like that I'll be like, oh yeah, that was a fun movie, and I grew up with it, and it's like, yeah, now watching it, I'm kind of embarrassed that I liked it as much as I did. All right, I'm sorry.
Oh God! Well, I mean, I can't believe White Christmas is still shown on TV. It has a blackface dance scene, and
yes.
they don't cut it. I was like, at least from Holiday Inn, they cut the blackface scene. I was like, it's still there. How is this still on television? We need to move beyond this.
No kidding. That's very funny because I did watch White Christmas this season and thought the same thing when I got to that part. I watched it on Netflix, so I fast forwarded through it. I'm like, I don't need this. So. But no, all right, what other juicy Hollywood? Oh, I bought a book. I don't have the title in front of me, and it's an older book, but it's all about Eddie Mannix and Howard Strickland, who were the two fixers. If you're aware of the Coen Brothers movie,
no, I know this.
Well, and I'm saying for the listeners too.
Oh yeah, of course.
If
Are you still here? What does this have to do with Batman?
Hail Caesar is a movie that's loosely based on Eddie Mannix's real career, and in fact, Josh Brolin's character is called Eddie Mannix and everything. But he was kind of a studio fixer when a star, got too drunk and was naked in public, or to the point of apparently Clark Gable ran over someone, and there was vehicular manslaughter and everything, and they kept it out of the papers and kept him out of jail and stuff. So it's all about their history of working at the studios, and I'm still in the early 30s, so I'm still getting just the silent movie scandals. And my God, you think that Fatty Arbuckle, and it's just a handful of stories of silent stars like that. Oh my God, there's dozens of stories of various silent stars that were gay, and that was kept out of the papers, and guys that wouldn't go to do the casting couch thing with the studio heads, so their careers were ruined and stuff. Really interesting stuff. Do you listen to, have we talked about this? You Must Remember This, that podcast?
Yeah, I do. She's been on break for a long time.
Yes, since September. Well, and to her credit, those things are so carefully written and produced that I do understand why she takes her long breaks. But man, I had no idea the episode about Van Johnson. I had no idea. Man, he led a hell of a life.
I know. That's everyone, right? You're like, how did they were all horribly tortured and horribly, and they were just smiling for the cameras. Have you read City of Nets?
No.
You should check that. That's like the book about Hollywood in the 40s by Otto Friedrich. It's from like the 80s and 70s, but it's like almost like a literary book about, and it's like all gossip about the Hollywood 40s stuff.
Oh, no.
I highly recommend it.
What?
This is what I do. I constantly read books about. This is how I calm down. You know, it used to be I would calm down at the end of the day by reading a comic book, but now like comic books are work. So now I read about old Hollywood. It's a weird sort of dynamic that's flipped in my life in the last few years.
No, it's fascinating.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, I
pulled it up on Amazon, and I will order it. All right.
Sweet. I've influenced John Siuntres. My life is complete.
Dude, you're a Hollywood guy. Hey, if we, I mean, the sad thing is when we see each other in conventions, you're running off to a meeting or a dinner. I'm doing the same sometimes as well, and we don't have a chance to hang out. Should I come to DC or should you come to Chicago? We got to play Trivial Pursuit Silver Screen, man.
Dude, for fucking sure. I would love to do it. Yeah, of course.
Well, congratulations. We'll wrap it up here and say nice going on an excellent 2016. I'm really sorry about your grandmother, but perfection. Really, man, that's a terrible thing, and I can appreciate that. But honestly, Vision and Sheriff of Babylon could be their own thing because you were given the opportunity to really, right under the radar, much like Omega Man, and tell your story and stuff. And also the success on Batman. I don't think it's easy following a big act. It's one of the reasons why Brad Meltzer was one of the few guys to say, yeah, I'll come on Green Arrow right after. There you go, Tom King. Looking forward to what he's got coming up in 2017, including those announcements that'll be coming later in the year for some sort of August release. One can only imagine what's in the future of Tom King. We certainly do like the present, and looking forward to the next issue of Batman coming up very soon. And we'll have Tom back in 2017. You can count on it. Thanks for listening today to Word Balloon. It's brought to you by GeekFuel.com, a great subscription box service that ships out a mystery box each month that has at least $50 worth of value for just $15 plus shipping and handling. We're talking about an exclusive t-shirt, a full downloadable game, 5 to 7 other great geek culture items. Right now, at the end of the year, you can save an additional $3 off of any subscription rate. So that means you'll get your Geek Fuel stuff for as little as $13.90. Take advantage of it now and receive an additional gift if you go through Geek Fuel through Word Balloon. And by doing that, you go to geekfuel.com/wordballoon. That's geekfuel.com/wordballoon. Thanks again for listening. Happy New Year. Thank you very much again for a great 2016. Really looking forward to 2017. That'll be Word Balloon's 12th year in podcasting, coming up in May. Hard to believe, but here we are, and we're not stopping anytime soon. And because of your support, League of Word Balloon listeners, it's all possible. So truly, thank you. Until next time, have a safe and happy New Year. Word Balloon is a copyright feature of Shaky Productions, copyright 2016.